University and the Dalhousie Student Union building are located on traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered Mi'kmaq territory. The Dalhousie Student Union seeks to honor the relational treaty process in its programming, events, and meetings.
Point of privilege, I believe?
Yes.
Mi'kmaq.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll remember that. Okay, I have a roll call that I'm going to do now. Greg Johansson and Regina Tywell are here. Sorry guys, if you're going to talk, could you please do it in the hallway? Thanks. Dan Nicholson.
Present.
John Hutton. Here. Mabuba Rahman. Here. Kathleen Reed. Here. I have regrets from Caitlin Lowe. Dylan Ryan.
Here.
Saki Sultana.
Present.
Sam Dixon.
Here.
Liam Hunt.
Here.
Sarah Dobson.
Here.
Jeremy Banks. I have Yoon Park proxying for Joe Baccio. Is Yoon here?
Yeah, he's in the back.
Okay.
You?
Yoon?
You? You come right up to the table.
Sorry, am I pronouncing that correctly? Yoon?
You. Drew?
I have a message from Anthony Sekeli. He's going to be a bit late. Regrets from Rebecca Howard. Holly Lobsinger. Regrets from Michael Davies Cole. Gary McConiak. Yeah. Sorry, am I pronouncing that right? No.
It's okay.
Amer El Kashab.
Here.
Amanda Prado.
Here.
Tori Klor.
Here.
Lacey Kuna. I have regrets from both Yazan Matria and Angela Hu. Corey Larson.
Yeah.
Casey Moss.
Yeah.
Alistair Mason.
Yeah.
I have Derek Moreau proxying for Laura McCarthy. Is Derek Moreau here? Okay, Sarah Jaber. Daniel Smith. Yeah. Chris Urban. Callahan Murphy. Oh, sorry, I have regrets from Callahan. Corlin Turner. Regrets from Caitlin Martell. Allison Faulkner.
Yeah.
Bart Soroka. Here. Yvette Yaku. And I have regrets from Alexandra Hudson. Nazneen Sultana.
No.
Mo Cabrera. And Dylan Latondra.
Yes.
Am I pronouncing that correctly? Latondra. Welcome to council. Okay. Next up, adoption of the agenda. Be resolved, the agenda be adopted as circulated. Yep.
So one of the counselors would be Drew.
Yep.
He's a grad student. The process. He's not a grad student.
Okay.
And who is the grad student senator?
Who is the graduate student senator?
No, Drew is.
Yeah, so it's not in the proper constituency, unfortunately. So that is Yoon Park. Unfortunately, yeah, you have to be within the same constituency as the person you're here for proxying. What I would invite you is you can sit at the table, but you won't have a vote, and you won't be able to have the other privileges that a councillor has.
May I just see what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Invite you to sit down and participate in the yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm sorry about the inconvenience from that. But that is one of the rules that we have. Thanks for pointing that out. Okay. Yeah, sorry, was there a point?
Can I make a motion to add something to the agenda? I'm
Sure.
rusty on how to do that.
Yeah, we'll just get a motion to approve the agenda first, and then any amendments coming to it after. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Bart, seconded Dylan. Okay, are there amendments to the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Just a discussion topic on the space for the Native Education Counseling Unit. Just to discuss it.
Sure. Native Education.
Counseling Unit.
Okay. And we'll add that at D in new business? Do I have a seconder for that motion to Harry? Is there any opposition to including that on the agenda? We'll take it adopted by unanimous consent. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? I believe the loaded ladle is here to make a presentation. Could I get a motion from the floor to move that up in the agenda? Yeah, Holly, seconded Dan. Is there any opposition to moving that is the loaded ladle presentation up to before communications received? Okay, we'll take that pass by unanimous consent. Are there any other amendments to the agenda?
Point of information.
Yes.
Are we taking the memorandum of understanding, etc., as part of the agenda as presented?
No, the agenda is currently as it's printed. If we want to amend the agenda to include that.
Yeah, sure, I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to include.
Okay, to include the memorandum of understanding, and we'll put that under E. And is there a motion for that, or a motion to approve it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a motion to approve memorandum of understanding, and that was distributed to councillors on Monday. Do I have a seconder for that? Yeah, Dylan, is there any opposition to including the memorandum of understanding as item E on the agenda under new business?
Greg,
Yeah.
I just wonder if it should be actually item A under old business, because it was
Noticed before?
It was noticed first before, it's been noticed, it was noticed in the August meeting.
Okay, can you modify the?
Well, I also wanted to be clear, because it was noticed in the August meeting and then included on the agenda without having to add it for 2 or 3 consecutive meetings after that.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know, like, at what point in time it was dropped from the agenda, but I can,
Well, it wasn't necessarily on the agenda, it was just noticed.
it was just
Yeah.
noticed prior, okay.
But if you'd like to modify it so that it's under old business, you're the mover of the motion to amend the agenda, would you like to do that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Bart, did you have a discussion point on that, or were you?
It was just the same thing that got circulated in the email, but hearing that it's been on the August agenda and was on it consecutively from there, I've got much less reservation about it.
Thanks.
So long as the idea that was put forward in the email is still really well taken.
There's adequate notice for it.
Yeah.
It's been, and I've brought it up a few times
Yeah.
in the notice
No,
period.
that's good then.
Yeah.
I'm content.
Any other discussion on it? Okay, is there any opposition onto amending the agenda to include that motion to approve the memorandum of understanding under old business? Okay, we'll take it passed by unanimous consent. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Okay, is there any opposition to accepting the agenda as amended? Okay, we'll take it passed by unanimous consent. Next up, the minutes of the previous meeting. I'll get a motion first to approve that. Could I get a motion to approve? Dylan? Seconded Emmer, is that a hand? Okay. And just a clerical error, it says 2013, not 2015 in the motion to that. Is there any opposition? I don't need to necessarily get a motion for that, just because it's a clerical. Any opposition to that? Okay. And is there any opposition to approving the minutes with that 2013 to 2015 adjustment? Okay, we'll take it passed by unanimous consent. Loaded ladle, you have the floor. By default, you have 15 minutes for the presentation. You come up here and make it. And do you think it might be more than that? Because we can extend it now if you'd like. Do you think it might be more than 15 minutes? Okay.
Do you folks have a PowerPoint?
Okay, floor.
Okay, so we're here to talk about the loaded ladle. How many people have eaten at the loaded ladle before? Awesome. So it operates 3 times a week in the sub, and usually from 1 to 2. Last year we served around 15,000 meals. We definitely have the capacity to serve many more people than that, and that is definitely located within our future goals for the system. But in essence, the laded ladle is a cooperative, collective structure. It's essentially run by us, who are the board of governors, who are all students mostly and volunteer for the program, but we also do have 5 paid positions. So we have the kitchen coordinator, we have a volunteer and serving coordinator, we have a solidarity serving coordinator, we have an admin and resource coordinator, we have a finance coordinator. So we are really in favor of the ladle because it's really important to have an affordable, free, and ethical solution for students to eat, and this does operate 3 times a week, as I mentioned. It provides a sense of community and ownership, even in the line when you see people lining up half an hour ahead. You can see a sense of community and friendships being formed. We're really in favor of that. alternative to Facebook creeping and pretending to study. There's a community in the kitchen, even with kitchen prep parties, which are very much open to all students and all volunteers. So we're really open to new people and new students, not even just students, anyone that really wants to get involved. So it's not essentially just a community within Dal, it's a community of Dal within the city. So Ladle started as a working group part of NSPIRG, and its intention was to draw attention to exclusive corporate contracts within Dal, which is still our goal. So there are struggles of having an explicitly anti-capitalist organization within a building operating under a corporate food company, and that struggle will probably be perpetual. Yeah, it's an organization which has helped a lot of students, and we have goals in offering and branching out to many more in the future.
So if you haven't been to the Ladle or haven't helped volunteer, we start at 9 a.m. on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and then we start serving at 1. We also have a prep party day on Monday nights. And so you come in and you chop vegetables, which allows students to kind of like de-stress and get away from classrooms and just have like a really awesome safe space to be in. Which also extends kind of outside of our kitchen as we share an office with NSPIRG. And it kind of, yeah, it's a safe space for you to come in, just hang out, read if you want to, talk to other folks in the office. So we understand that students don't exist in like a vacuum that is university, and they're like super diverse and have like different abilities and different needs, and we try to provide access to anything and everything that we can within that realm, and kind of base Ladle off of that principle. It's also super important to know that we are part of a union and we are a cooperative run by students. Yep.
Yeah, just branching out on some more future goals of Ladle. We really enjoy what we're doing, as you can see, and we think it's valuable that more students are aware of this service and more students take advantage of it. As I mentioned, there were 15,000 meals that were distributed last year. We have the capacity to potentially double that even, because we make so much food and we're making so much food that it is basically at the capacity of what we can withstand, and a lot more students can benefit from that. So we'd really like to make it more available and to make it more prevalent in Dalhauzie's community.
You keep saying Dow's community, but I think you mean Studley's community.
Yeah. Yeah.
On that.
Yeah.
I'm the volunteer and serving coordinator,
Yeah.
and we've been doing a lot of outreach. We've actually connected with a Sexton student who will be helping us, and the staff and our board members and our volunteers are hopefully going to be more involved in the Sexton community. We really need volunteers from Sexton, so we're trying to find those people, connect with them, and bring them more into the community. It's a goal of ours to be more involved in Sexton, and we're starting that process now.
And just to add on, it's like we are a community kitchen, and the kitchen part of it doesn't exist without the community part, and we've experienced like, yeah, there are a lot of people on Sexton who like want the service, but not a lot of kind of like response to getting volunteers out, especially since there isn't like great infrastructure in place at Sexton to carry out what Ladle needs. We need more presence in volunteering to make sure that works, and it works well, and isn't all kind of like loaded on one person to make it work.
Sorry, I just want to make it clear. Is the issue with Studley like specifically volunteer based, or there's also lack of infrastructure at Studley, or not Studley, at
Sexton?
Sexton? Yes.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
both.
It's both. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Well, we all know that a little bit, and thank you guys for all the effort you've been doing. But is there some sort of a timeline, because the issue of prisons in Sexton and Carleton has been ongoing since last year. I remember when Jomel was the Sexton representative, we've had this ongoing issue with the little of their prisons on Sexton. So is there a specific timeline that you guys have to have presence on both Sexton and Carleton campus on the days that you're not serving food here on Studley? Or is this just a plan and a goal that you don't want to see at the end of?
I'm just gonna interrupt there. I appreciate all the questions. Let's try and save them to the end though, just for the sake of it's kind of eating into their presentation time. So, but I don't want to cut that off. There will be time for questions and comments at the end. That's it.
I think we're open to more questions.
Before that, I just want to like go over some of the things that we've been doing specifically this semester. So we started a book club called Radish Reads, which is happening monthly, and it's free for anyone and everyone. The materials are free, so you get a free book, really engaging discussion, and a safe space to engage in that discussion. We also just finished our first workshop series called To the Roots, which is basically a weekend with a very diverse range of workshop presenters who came in, and we brought some people from out of town to present, and it went really well, and turnout was good, so we're hoping to continue that in the future. The other thing that we do, the bursary program. So we started a bursary program for anyone who doesn't have like access to any sort of financial help or can't get that access. So this time around, the bursaries ranged from around $20 to $100 based on that person's need, and it was kind of like on a case-by-case basis. And this will be restarting again in January. And one more thing for me is that we're always open to collaborating with these societies. So some that we have collabed with are the Bike Center, the South Asian Society, and Divest Style.
And recently we've also had some really exciting renovations taking place within the sub, so that will also greatly benefit the Ladle and its capacities for serving and for welcoming people into the sub.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys want some free kale? I've got a lot of kale in my fridge and I don't like kale.
Yes. Yes.
I had a garden, I grew it because my girlfriend wanted it, and I don't like kale.
Excellent. Kathleen?
Yeah, I was just wondering if people here wanted to volunteer, maybe if you could just let them know how they could go about doing that or joining us.
So Tess is our volunteer coordinator, so if her info is on the Loaded Ladle website, so if you want to get in contact with her, if you just want to come in and on a free day that you have off on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday morning, again, it starts at 9 o'clock a.m. and our kitchen is the second floor. I'm trying to picture where I am. If you turn right at the top of the stairs, our kitchen is right before the McGinnis room, I think is that auditorium. So if you can come into there if you don't want to go and email Tess, and just pop in and you can help cook or help serve at 1 o'clock.
Jeremy?
I just wanted to ask if there was a clear answer to the question asked previously about timelines for service on Carlton and Sexton.
We don't have a specific timeline as of now. I think our timeline is as soon as we get volunteers, which is hopefully as soon as possible. We would really like to be involved in Sexton. So we're trying to increase our outreach at Sexton campus, and yeah, so as soon as we get volunteers.
So I have a bit of speakers that's going. Daniel and then Amber.
Is it a requirement to eat at the Ladle? Like, if you want to eat at the Ladle, do you have to volunteer there?
Oh no, definitely not.
So,
We serve about 150 to 200 people a day, so not everyone volunteers.
so do you just need volunteers to bring stuff down and serve it at
It would
Sexton?
be something that we would work with a group of Sexton students to see what they envision and what our capacity is at. In previous years, we brought burritos down that we prepared here because we don't have a kitchen space there. So the serving would look very different than the other campuses. So we would try to work with students and see what they envision and what our capacity is to hopefully make everyone happy.
Amber? And then Holly?
I have two questions. The first one, how do you go exactly into advertising to Saxon students about the Little? I've met 5 people today and asked them what is they were asking me what is this line in the sub. So they didn't even know what the Little was, and they were all engineering students. The second question is about the budget. Is the budget displayed or discussed in the AGMs of the Little or and are they available online so that the rest of the constituency can look through them or not?
The budget is discussed at our AGM. We just had a general meeting recently, and we have the budget. It's public. I don't think it's on our website, but I could find how you could access that.
Okay.
Did you have another question?
That was the how
Okay.
did you get along? How did you get about reaching to Saxon students? Because the
That's
students don't.
something that's an ongoing process. So whether that's through social media or word of mouth or through our community events, like To the Root, and we hope that through our just general outreach, that we do access all areas of the student body.
And when we were going down to Sexton campus before and doing burritos, we were also tabling there. So that outreach is possible and was happening. It just was placed on one staff member and was too much work for that one staff. So we really are depending on more volunteers to make that work.
I have Dylan and then Bart.
Just to contribute to that discussion, would looking on tiger societies help inform people about? So there's lots of societies that have no idea what they do, and so I look on tiger societies.
Yeah, we're on there.
Bart.
I'm sorry, this is a very specific question. Do you guys know how much funding goes to the Lone Ladles from the campuses that aren't Studley?
It would depend on student population, how many full-time students there are.
Oh, but it's charged the same as it is here.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, did I miss you before?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It's cool. Am I going? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Sweet. You guys had mentioned that you guys are open to partnerships with other societies. I'm just wondering what those partnerships would look like. What sort of mutual benefit, what could our society provide to you and who's vice versa in this partnership?
So I think it would really depend on what you wanted to do. We've had other societies participate in stall servings, which are we provide food for maybe an event that you're hosting outside of just normal Ladle servings, or maybe you want to come in and host a blank does lunch, and then you can help cook in the kitchen and kind of make your own menu. And I think it's based on whatever you want to dream up and present to us, and we can find something that works.
Cool. Thanks.
Sorry about that, Sam. Corlin and then Jern.
You said you have a bursary program. What's the process for students applying to that bursary? Is it an application and vote, or?
Yeah. So we have a form that people are signing all their information that they're putting down, and then we have a committee that will go through and basically approve the applications.
Or is it restricted to a certain group, volunteers or something, or
No.
is it just, okay.
No, it's everyone, anyone and everyone.
Jeremy.
You have a lot of activities, which are awesome. I was wondering if you could connect your activities to your mandate, because it sounds like your mandate is very advocate-y, and your actions are very direct action-y. So I'm wondering if you could tie that together, and then also comment if there's any collaboration with the advocacy through our execs.
So you're asking.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, can you state one more time what your mandate of the organization is? At the beginning you mentioned about non-corporate or protesting corporate.
Yeah, so our mandate is to offer an alternative to corporate capitalist food systems that are in place on campus. We don't say that we replace them, but we offer an alternative,
Okay.
and we are a food justice organization as well, and we
Okay.
provide education and free food to
Okay.
students or to communities.
Okay. So rather than advocacy, it's just offering an alternative?
No, So we recognize the privilege we have as an organization to talk about these things in a university system, and then we work to change the barriers to food access.
Totally. So like the follow-up to that, so I'm wondering around advocating for alternative food systems, is there collaboration with the execs? Because as you mentioned also, that you're operating within a kitchen that is managed by a corporation. So I'm wondering, you know, that corporation serves the executives, and it seems like there would be room to collaborate with the executives around how that management works, and it might fall within your mandate. So I was just wondering if that's on your table, if it's on your plate, if it's upcoming, where alternative food systems fit in kind of the context of the kitchens in the sub.
Yeah, maybe if you want to speak to the Ladle side first, then I can speak to the exec side.
Okay, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
I have been working here a month, so.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I do know that we would like to see less corporate food in a very general sense. I just don't wanna say anything else because I can't speak for the board members, which, the board members are in charge of our long-term vision.
I have Daniel, but John, I was gonna give you first speakers right. So you wanted to build on that point anyways, if I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like at the simplest level, we provide them space, and they provide affordable, some free, healthy, and ethical, like locally sourced, organic type of stuff, food for students. So it's a good deal in terms of that collaboration. But other things that we do in terms of like advocating for better food options on campus, which could be anything like meal hall to whatever have you. They would interact mostly through the Dallas Student Union Sustainability Office, where we have 2 part-time staff workers there. And earlier in the summer, we approved some funding to do some research into a campus hunger report. Something's been done at other places like Ryerson's Good Food Center. So looking at the links between things like student poverty and hunger. So like trying to connect things like the farmer's market with the loaded ladle with the food bank, and trying to have a holistic view of food issues on campus. So this is some stuff that we are working on. The ladle's been involved with that.
Yeah, cool. I just have one more point about from the exec perspective. If you remember at the beginning of our term or at the beginning of the year, we were asked to do our goals presentation. Reallocate or like reevaluating the food services within our union was in that goals presentation. If you were present, so we do have goals to talk about the food on campus, and I think that obviously partnering with things like the Loaded Ladle or like the Garden Society and stuff like that would make sense because they are food related societies.
I have Daniel and Bart. I do still want to go with first speakers privileges. William, did you have something you wanted to say?
Is there any current plans for working with the agricultural campus and the materials that they provide? Or?
We don't have any current programs, but I think we'd be open to it.
Quick point of info?
Sure.
Agriculture campus students don't pay dues to the Ladle, so there's a less level of responsibility to those students than say Sexton students.
I know that, but it's more for just material, like food material coming from there as part of the sustainability.
Burrow. Bar.
Not far enough to not pay dues.
Okay, Daniel?
My other question is not about sex in this time, but more just how do you run, like when you're running the kitchen, like how do you supervise the volunteers to make sure that everyone's following like a food safe procedure? Is there like head chefs or things like that that are like, whoa, like you didn't wash your hands, get out of here?
Yeah, so our like kitchen coordinator, basically like runs the kitchen and is there from the time that we start cooking to the time that we are serving, and we have like protocols taped up on the wall, and like when someone new comes in who doesn't know to like, you need a hat and you need an apron and you need to like wash your hands up to the elbows, and like just like typical kitchen, safety. He'll let them know, or someone else who's in the kitchen who has been there will let them know, and yeah, just like general things. If someone's like doing something that's like seems a bit unsafe, someone will tell them. about what is safe and not in the kitchen.
Or?
Okay, this is gonna sound like really like way too focused on what's written down and not what things are supposed to be. So forgive me, but that's just what I am. Do you guys see an issue with the mandate of offer alternative corporate capitalist food systems on campus, and like not offering on the not studly campuses, but still focusing on other things that are more advocacy based, or is that like kind of just right into what the mandate's supposed to be? I guess do you guys see an issue with the fact that there's like the mandate is supposed to be like offer alternatives on campus, and then doing more stuff on the Studley campus without actually bringing it to the other campuses? It just seems to me like there's a lot of focus here.
Right.
Like all the alternative food stuff, which is great, and then the like the other organizations like the book club and stuff like that, where funds are being put here,
Right.
and there's still not the actual alternative to capitalist-based food sources on the other campuses.
Right. I mean, we definitely see that as a problem, and it's something that we've put like a lot of thought and energy and time into, especially in the past years. And like I've said, we've tried bringing our stuff down, but in the long run, the like payoff of one staff having to work so much to bring that stuff down to that campus, and it would be awesome. Like again, it's just like we need volunteers, and if we could get volunteers, we could bring some of that stuff down, or if we had like more resources down at that end of campus, and it could make it easier.
Yeah, sorry. I guess I haven't looked at the budget. I'm sorry. Like I don't know how much, say, the book club cost, or how much like the to the root cost. If there was a monetary investment there, could that money go to a on-site individual who could either A, help organize volunteers, or B, disperse that funding amongst volunteers who would get some sort of stipend to actually bring the mandate to the other campuses before a non-mandate thing is happening here?
Right. Well, things like To the Root wasn't necessarily like only on this campus, and like these services, although it is like a bit of a walk down the road, like you could come here for book club or whatever, but it would be like interesting to maybe talk about paying someone to go down to that part of the campus to work.
Okay.
Or like, yeah.
Sorry, I don't.
Derek on the engineering rep.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Do you have a proxy sheet? You did. You submitted one before. Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. You're good. Go ahead.
So my question is, if sections, we don't really have a lot of the capacity for like another organization to be coming in and making food and things like that. So do you guys have a plan or like a thought of a way to bring it down? Like if that were the case, say like if we weren't able to physically move you or move like a division of you guys down there, like more like I guess it comes back down to the transport thing and the volunteers. So I guess my real question will be, are you guys looking for volunteers on Sexton, or are you guys more looking for like overall volunteers?
I think both. I mean, if we get a wide variety of volunteers that would be able and willing to go to the Sexton campus, then we would take that into account and plan more efficiency and more ways to get to the Sexton campus.
Okay, just because, actually no, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, Emmer?
Question, why, this question is about the volunteers, why do you need specific volunteers for Sexton? We have a lot of events, this has a lot of events when we move food across the city all the time, and the target patrol line here is available for all the sites to use. Why can't you just cook the food here and have 2 or 3 volunteers serve in Sexton?
Right. That's what was happening before, is that someone was cooking burritos and basically biking them down, or using target patrol to bring it down to the other campus, and it was like lovely and awesome, but we just like need people to do that, and we need like we could ask people who volunteer on this campus to help do that, but that also means that they're taking time out, when instead of like taking an hour between classes to come in and cook, that means like, oh, you have to like somehow get down to the other campus and put all this time into this other campus and then come back, when if we had someone who was down at the other campus, it might be easier for them to just like pop by as if you were on this campus and cooking food here.
I have Jeremy. I'm just also, I know it's not a debate right now, but I want to kind of observe the two people per thing, Robert's rules, per issue debate. But last point, yeah.
I just wanted to comment that we're getting into really finicky operations-esque questions. And I'm sure you guys have a board meeting at some point that members of Ladle, which we are, could attend and find out more information.
Yes.
Could you state when that's going to be?
So we just had our last board meeting on Monday, so our next one won't be for another few weeks, but they are public, and if anyone wants to come, they will be posted, and you should come and voice your opinion, especially if you're super into the whole debate about Sexton campus. I'd really urge you to come and talk about what you think might work or what you want to see done on that campus, because we do need that extra push to get the ball rolling.
I'll just say on that point quickly too, and if you wanted to let one of the councillors know, and they could say it in the announcement section as well, that's just a good idea next time it's coming up. Dan, sorry.
I was just gonna ask, are all of your meetings predetermined, the dates predetermined? So if I went on, say, the website, would there be a big list of all of the dates for the year, or?
We do have weekly meetings. They're open to everyone, Wednesdays at 3:30. So anyone's welcome to come by our office for those. And then we have board meetings that aren't set.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Bart, is it something that?
I was just gonna say, maybe the next board meeting, if you could send to the chair to disperse to all the councillors, so we could disperse it to our various constituents, that would be fantastic.
Can I just make a suggestion? I actually think that it might be more appropriate for I think that folks have been awesome, thanks for coming in, but maybe we can put you in touch with the Sexton campus director, and he can bring you to the have you come into a Sexton advisory committee meeting. That's what that is for providing this kind of input, as opposed to and every related society to Sexton has a rep on that. I think that that's probably a way of dealing with that in a way that represents all of the voices at Sexton, and there's reps from the various societies. Those folks are going to have better connections, and so I can make sure that Tess and Ms. Ann are in contact and can set that up and have that kind of have some folks go down and have a discussion about how to reach Sexton. I imagine that there's lots of logistical things, when do classes happen on Sexton? When do people have lunchtime breaks that folks might not be aware of?
Well, yeah, and I'm a Sexton student, and I'll have easy access into the Sexton advisory meetings. So that was something I was talking to one of the staff members right before this about attending one of those and trying to get the ball rolling on this, because we all know that it's kind of a bone of contention.
Okay, thanks a lot for coming, appreciate it. Sorry, was it? Sorry, Saki, was there a quick point you wanted to make? I know you haven't spoken yet.
Oh, so you're mainly talking about the Sexton. No plan, no immediate plan for the Caucus campus?
I think it was just the conversation was relating to Sexton a lot, but yes, not all six.
Thanks, Saki. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next up we have communications received. I have a report submitted from Caitlin. Unfortunately, she is not able to be here today. I also have a Senate report submitted by Liam. Is there any opposition to me distributing those two reports by email and hopefully paper copies if they're available? Is there any opposition to that? Okay, I am going to send them by email shortly. Next up, committee appointments. At least 4 non-councillors be members of the election committee. So this is, Seth is here to speak about that. Yeah, Seth, do you want to take it away?
Woo!
So we need at least 4 councillors to be part of the elections committee. Non-councillors to be part of the elections committee. So we posted on DSU Facebook, I think on last Monday, and I got a few people interested in this position. So I have the names and I sent it to Greg. and I think they accepted their nominations, but I don't know how the process will work. Should I speak on behalf of them, or some of the, or one of the councillors has to?
So I'll interrupt quickly. So the way this has been done in the past, if I'm not mistaken, and I made clear about this before, is this is going to be subject to the normal appointment process of council, section 23 in the Union Rules and Policies. But SEP has also made some recommendations for us, so he's gone out and this position's been advertised for the last week, if I'm not mistaken, and just basically abiding fully by that, everything in there, and he has some recommendations to make to council as well. And then maybe Dylan, just from your experience last year, I don't know if you had anything to add on that. This was done last year, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
Okay. So if there is anyone else here, and I made this clear to SEP as well, who would like to be nominated for it, they are free to do so. And I do have 5 names that were submitted to me by SEP, but you can go ahead and talk about your selection criteria for them.
Can I just add something that in the bylaws it says at least 4 and in the policy it says at least 5, so I think we'll hopefully appoint at least 5 and then we'll satisfy both of those requirements. Just, yeah, hashtag inconsistency.
Actually, I have 5 names, but one of them. Yeah, one of them told me that he's gonna come to the meeting, but he's not here, so I'm not sure if he has sent any email to.
I do. I have, and I made sure to get acceptances of their nomination from them. So I do have those. Yes.
So one of my main goals for this year's election is to increase engagement, especially in agricultural campus. So for that purpose, I would like to recommend Robin Collin. She's the president of Dalhousie Agricultural Society, and she can definitely help us with outreaching and increasing engagement in AC. The second person is Katie Douglas. She was vice president and a student rep at King's Student Union. She is not enrolled in King's College right now. She's a Dalhousie student. Also, she worked for Nova Scotia provincial and federal election. She was also CRO for societies at King's College. Third person is Mohammed Agayer. He is president of Dalhousie Undergraduate Political Science, and also he's involved with Dalhousie Arts and Social Science Society. Fourth person is Adam Chain. He was rep for his residence for a year. He was active in partisan campaigns in 2014 Ontario election and federal election this year. He's also president of Dalhousie Young Liberal Society and VP Communication of Dalhousie Undergraduate Political Science Society. And the fifth person is Lauren. I'm not sure about her last name. She works in Student Union Building Information Desk, and I think she's good. So these are my recommendations to the council. And
Okay, thanks, Seth. And as I said, they do all have confirmed with me individually that they accept the nominations. I have Lauren M. Yo.
Yeah.
So those being recommended by SEP, are there any other nominations from the floor for the elections committee? Requirement is that they are not councillors and they are union members. Any nominations from the floor for the position of elections committee, non-councillors? Third time, any nominations from the floor for non-councillors to the positions of elections committee? Okay, so congratulations to those 5. And I guess we'll get a motion to ratify the appointment of those. Once again, that's Katie Douglas, Robin McCallum, Adam Chain, Mohammed Al-Gayer, Lauren M. Yo. Moved by Dylan to ratify those, seconded by Corey. All those in favor of ratifying those? Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next up, I have that. The chair's remarks, not much to say. I have just answers from last time and the calling each other by our names. I've read Robert's rules about that again, and just clarified. Essentially, that's only for debate situations. So if we're otherwise in a more casual discussion, unless we're debating a motion, we don't necessarily have to be calling people by their positions or the member. And it actually says in that section too that the chair has the opportunity to call people from their names if that's the way that it's usually been done. in terms of picking who to speak. So that's where we're going to proceed. I don't want it to be too formal. We're not robots. If we're in some other part of the meeting, it's okay to call each other by their name. But if we're in a debate and we're debating a motion, that's when, and not a big deal. I'll just remind you of it if you do. It's not the end of the world if that happens. The other thing that I kind of wanted to crack down slightly on is points of information, points of order, and points of privilege. Just we are kind of tending to interrupt, and I'm not doing a good job of kind of holding people off, but it's important. If you do want to interrupt, you can do so, but there is a method to do so, and that's through a point of information, a point of order, or a point of privilege. The information's all there. Thanks, Kathleen. Are there any questions about anything about how council's been going? Okay, like I said, you can email either me or Kaylee as well if you have any questions or concerns about the way council is functioning. Next up, reports of committees. Board of Governors caucus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, before, I just wanna, on the points of order, points of information, points of privilege, it is under Robert's rules customary that you, indicate your interest in speaking, but you have to wait until you're recognized by the chair, so if you do have a point of order, just say point of order and wait for Greg to be like, yes, you can speak. Because I think that will help with some of the interrupt.
Thanks, Kaylee.
Well,
what is it?
Also, if we're gonna go with information, points of information are questions, not statements.
That's a bad precedent to set.
Yeah,
You had a point of order.
Yeah.
Point of information. That's something to say.
No.
They're actually formally now called requests for information.
Oh, thank you.
Anyways, thanks, Barb, for clarifying that. Anthony, sorry.
So, I guess first off, just on behalf of myself and Rebecca, I just wanted to let you know that the report was late in getting sent. There were a few points we had to clarify just about confidentiality that wasn't able to happen until just a day or two ago. But I did print off a number of copies. If anybody wants to take one, if we could just pass them down, there's probably enough for one for every two. But I'd just like to bring up a couple of the important things that came up. So going in, there was a request from John at the last board meeting just to address the issue of the potential tuition increases for agriculture, engineering, and pharmacy. And Dan did bring this up at the end of his briefing to the board that this was something that we're interested in taking a look at. And while we didn't have a chance to actually address it or get any feedback on it there, we've made a point to reach out to Carolyn Waters, who Rebecca and I will hopefully be meeting with in the next week or so to address this further. Dan will have the opportunity to be part of the consultation where this comes up at the next Board of Operations meeting. But for further from there, at least we brought it to the attention right now. Also brought it up at the most recent Student Experience Committee meeting. So it is on the it is on the table. The other thing that is acknowledged at the beginning of that report is just that so upon at the beginning of the board meeting, all the board members were met with one of the students from Divest Dal there. And essentially, just had a quick conversation there just to essentially, acknowledge the fact that the efforts and concerns are still there. Just because, there's a huge report put out, by the board last year does not mean that, this is something that, is off the table now. So we just kind of established that connection there and looking forward to collaborate on that moving forward. In terms of President Florazone's report, you can see a number of things that are listed there. I mean, we did have an increase in in enrollment this year, which was a little bit of a surprise based on everything that happened last year. I won't get too much into the nitty-gritty of it. One of the interesting things, though, is that based on the external report that came out from the Task Force of Misogyny and Sexism and Homophobia, they will be, they are in a search for an executive director of diversity and inclusiveness, and it'll be that person's job to actually essentially prioritize the recommendations that have got put forth by that committee and see to their implementation. So definitely be interesting to see once that search closes and who is appointed to that or hired to that position. Also, a series of invites has been sent out to the newly elected MPs among the province. We didn't get, at least at this point, didn't get any information on when those invitations are for type thing, but I think it'll be interesting to see what's on the agenda for that. In terms of the student services report, so again, those in terms of like orientation, training and education, the 4 things that are listed there, those were the big things that the Vice Provost and Forstall went over. I'm not sure, just on some conversations we had following that, There was a little bit more we were hoping to hear. I mean, it was obviously a very like high level scope of what's been going on for student services, but there's definitely a number of things that we thought were lacking or could have been addressed. So one of those things that again we're hoping to address at the next student experience committee meeting, and essentially just wanting to make sure that you know, especially some of the big points that are talked about in terms of international student support and whatnot, are those things that are not just said to make it seem like we're doing things, but hopefully the things that people actually see action behind. One important thing that was quickly mentioned by the investment committee is that there has been portfolios opened up for donors to you know, place their investments in you know, in companies and holdings that are not supportive of fossil fuels, and you know, they claim that this was, you know, in line with the objectives of Divest DAO. So just thought that was an interesting thing to mention. Again, it was very quickly addressed at the meeting. And in terms of additional business there, we were actually approached by Catherine Bagnall-Stiles, who's the Assistant VP Communications and Marketing. And essentially, she just offered, essentially to the DSU executives and to the council, if there's any way that, you know, she could support, you know, any of our efforts in any capacity, be it through marketing, being through like any community-based collaborations, like she's more than willing to do that. And you know, I just wanted to note it in the report because I think it's very nice, like having, you know, some positivity and some engagement coming from that side. Although she's not a board member, she is, you know, working very closely in the office of the president, which was nice. And further than that was just the note there. So there's Catherine Bagnall-Stiles used to be a member of the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia's board, and there's a current board member, who I forget her name right now, but she's currently on the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia. And essentially, she kind of did the same thing where she approached us, just mentioning that if there's any way that they could be supported through that organization in terms of any efforts that are going on campus, they'd be more than happy to do that. And they kind of put a timeline for a meeting between now and January, if there's any way we could collaborate. And I think this was something that was really important to bring up, considering the work that Dan and I have been doing between some of the mental health based groups under the DSU right now and administration, for essentially, you know, consolidating some resources there and figuring out, you know, how we can get administration and, you know, the individual groups that are working towards progressing mental health and mental health education and advocacy here on campus. You know, I think that'll be a really interesting like avenue for us to take, especially if we're gonna end up looking for some sort of like governmental support, you know, down the road, which is really, I think a lot of us could attest to, that's what we need when we come to talking about mental health supports on campus. In terms of upcoming meetings, there's an academic affairs and research committee meeting tomorrow morning, which Rebecca will be attending, and the next full Board of Governor meeting, which is open. Again, committee meetings are unfortunately closed, but the full board meetings are open to everyone. It will be November 24th, 3 o'clock at University Hall. If you have any questions, again, this was just, you know, very basic, and, you know, to be honest, especially like a first time putting together like a full report. Again, it was challenging, you know, getting through the things that are, you know, unfortunately like have to be confidential and we can't get into, but I'd be happy to answer like any questions that anybody may have now or afterwards. Please let me know. And yeah, Greg, I did email it to you if you don't mind just disseminating it whenever you get a chance electronically.
I got that. Is it okay if it's after the meeting?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, I'll send it with a follow-up email. Okay, are there any questions for Anthony? Or
nothing disseminated to the board can't be disseminated to students at large, right?
Nothing disseminated.
Like the sheet that you gave us, I could give to anybody on my campus.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
That was all public information.
Good stuff. Thank you.
John?
Yeah, two quick comments. First of all, this is excellent. Like, really well done. Thank you. Just two comments. One's about your comments on the tuition fees. Thanks for bringing that up. Your meeting with Carol Waters, just tell me, can you meet with me beforehand?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still waiting on like an official date for that.
Cool, because we're presenting to the Budget Advisory Committee on the 6th, so just so we're on the same page on things.
Absolutely.
I think that might be useful for you. The other one's around the investment committee, around the creation of the new fossil free fund, which is good news. That's great news. One of the barriers for the Halsey to divest is that they have a large fund that's managed by a fund manager, and trying to create a fossil free fund, the size of the pool that the manager's investment would be much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
What a lot of universities do is they have one manager that has multiple universities investing their endowments in, so they have a very large pool to work with. that means the management fees per transaction, whatever, is lower. Creating a fossil-free fund, I mean, Dalhousie is on its own, it's a pool of multiple universities, so it's more expensive. But if Dalhousie were to say, talk to other universities, have multiple universities getting into this pooled fossil-free fund, it can reduce the transaction costs and make it easier for things like sustainable investments or divestment. So maybe just bring up the idea of reaching out to universities and getting to join in on a fossil-free fund would be really cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Ron. Are there any questions for Anthony? Comments?
Sorry, John, did you want to meet before the 6th? Were you recommending before you present, or does it matter?
Before you go to Carolyn.
Before, okay.
William.
Just a request to slow down in vocal presentations in the future.
Sorry.
You're just
Thanks, Will. Okay, thanks, Anthony. Next.
Request for information.
Oh, yes.
Just because I didn't write it down, so I'm curious, when is the discussion around the education unit?
Yeah, that's unfortunately new business.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Anthony. Next up, unless I no other questions, comments, Senate caucus. Liam, John, any other? Jeremy.
Oh well,
Whichever one.
unless you guys have anything.
Well, you should have the email by now if you don't. You have the copy right here. There's two main chunks that I wanted to point out based on the meeting that we had on Monday. One having to do with a presentation by Peter Fardy, who's the VP at Advancements. You can see here he went over basically the corporate donorship process and basically the distinction between a gift and a contractual agreement like the one that Shell reached with us in March. And on a related note, the ad hoc committee on fossil fuel divestment is preparing a draft report. If you want to touch on that, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, so the ad hoc committee on fossil fuels is, as some of you may already know, an ad hoc committee struck to ask academic units to submit how divestment would affect them. The process that this has gone through has opened up the idea that academic units can be as small as an individual, because an individual can be a peer-reviewed and published unit unto themselves. With that reality means that every student society and potentially every student on campus and every staff and faculty and department and program could potentially be considered an academic unit. However, this was not clarified in the original ask. Through several discussions, the original deadline for submissions was extended multiple times until October 14th. And an addendum was also added that stated that any submissions beyond October 14th could be considered for the final report in the new year. With that in mind, this November 13th, we'll be submitting a draft report of what we have so far to the Senate, where basically we update them on where we're at. I really want to encourage everyone here and all the societies here and all the individuals here who have an opinion or a statement on this to organize in whatever size a unit they feel the need to, list the people who agree with the statement and to submit a statement. This process is part of an ongoing process that is a really exciting one. There's a lot of interest in divestment from faculty, there's a lot of interest from students, and the Senate is a really great place to explore that in a way that's not a protest and doesn't have to be controversial. And considering that the DSU has already divested and has been in support of Divest-Al and divestment from fossil fuels, as voted very strongly last year, I'm hoping that a lot of student societies could put something together and submit it for that final report, because there haven't been a huge amount of responses. And I think one of the biggest for me, sadness is here is that, especially around fossil fuels, there's been a lot of yes or no, and there hasn't been a lot of discussion around it. And I'm hoping this can be a forum for that discussion moving forward. So whatever faculty you're in, whatever student societies you're in, whether you're pro or against, yeah, I fully support you submitting something to the ad hoc committee on fossil fuel divestment and continuing the conversation.
Thanks, Jeremy. John.
Yeah, I am very happy to give the Senate report because we had a really big win in Senate, a really big win. The report we put forward proposing Senate reform, increased student representation, has passed unanimously through Senate Planning and Governance Committee. And so it still needs to go to the Senate floor later for a vote and approval, but usually if it passes the committee, it will pass the floor. The committee voted in favor of expanding student Senate representation from 7 to 20. So it's looking like it's going to be 12 representatives, one for every faculty, plus the DSU's VP, AE, and president, as well as 5-ish. The remainder will be as equity reps. So things like having a guaranteed spot for a Mi'kmaq student on the Senate or an African Nova Scotian student on the Senate. So everyone will be represented from all campuses, from all faculties, and there'll be just a lot more students. So this is a huge win for us. That said, it does have some implications. It did create some complicated conversations on the DSU side of things over the coming year. Because it raises questions of, we have Senate sit on council. Are we creating 13 new positions and therefore we have to either add 13 or remove the senators from council? So questions will be coming up in your faculty society that you need to start taking up. We will be talking about this at the academic committee this month, so please make sure that someone from your society is present. You yourself can't make it here about, please send a proxy, it's important, it affects your society. So you have choices. You could, at your society, create a new position that would just sit on Senate. You could fold Senate responsibilities into an existing position, so what you do can be decided by faculty, as well as how to elect them. So just could be easy for science or arts to do it. It's harder for architecture and planning to do it because they're two separate societies. So there won't be a one-size-fits-all model, but it does implicate you. But the council thing, this is really exciting. A lot more representation of Senate. We currently have 9% of the Senate's composition. We're going up into 20%, which will put us first place within the U15 institutions for student representation. So, yay.
Thanks, John. That's it for the report?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a bit of a speaker list going here. Bart, and then Dan.
When is the Senate vote going to happen on this? And would it be beneficial for multiple students to show up and show their support for the motion?
The date is not yet decided. It's going to go back to SBGC just for some minor revisions. So that vote will be mid-November, and then it'll probably be the next Senate meeting after that. So probably late November, early December. But I'll get back to you. But yes, having students there to show support would be great.
Kaylee, do you have a response to that?
Oh no, I just have a separate question that I wanted to ask the Senate.
Okay, I'll put you on the list. Dan?
Yeah, I just want to highlight just like the incredible work that John has done on the proposal and especially defending the proposal at the SPGC. There were a lot of tough questions, although they were good questions, no real harmful questions or anything. I was really happy to see the SPGC ask some very insightful questions, and John did an excellent job defending this proposal around the table. I think one other point that I think is worth noting is that in this proposal, we are, in our opinion, I guess, leading the way for change, especially at the Senate floor for having diversity reps, which is the first thing that's been done across the U15 and I think across the country at Senates. Or was it just across the U15s?
I haven't looked at every Senate constitution in the country, so I can't say for sure. But as far as I know, having one rep per faculty has been done many times, but having equity reps on Senate, I don't think has ever been done.
Yeah. So that's really excellent.
Yeah. Next up, I have Dylan.
Response to Jeremy, it is, right? Is it possible to have Isaac maybe send out a call out for proposals from the different societies? I'm sure that there's societies that aren't represented at this table. Just saying hey, if you guys want to submit a proposal to Senate, let us know. That's a way to reach all these societies that you're mentioning aren't being.
Just to follow up, that email was sent to Isaac and the DSU executives.
Interesting.
Next up I have Kaylee.
I just wanted to know if the Senate caucus was gonna prepare a submission, and if so, just say that if you want some help, or if you want me to copy edit it, or anything like that. Those are things that I do. So,
Thanks,
just
Kaylee.
if the Senate caucus is putting together a proposal or a statement, that I'm here.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Bart?
Just to John, thank you for making sure that every disparate organization can figure out their own way to appoint the representative. I think that's great. I would just ask if that gets, I doubt it will get changed at the meeting in November, but if it does, to just reach out and let us know, because that to me is like really important. So if that changes like how they do it, that'd just be great to know before the actual.
Yeah, it definitely won't.
Okay,
The
cool.
Senate doesn't wanna tell us how to do those things.
Perfect.
One of the lines in the thing is, these students will be elected in a way determined by the Dalhousie Student Union. So this will be, you have a lot of time to discuss it, and it'll finally be put to a vote at the AGM in the winter.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to say that that stuff is not really like worked out yet, because it will have to also coincide with the governance review. Obviously, I think that lots of folks at this table would have lots of opinions about having a 55-person council. And I think also and then I think similarly, in terms of how the representatives are appointed, there might be changes in the governance review that impact how we elect those kinds of representatives who represent students but don't sit on council, if we were to go the route where we don't have all the senators on council as well as on the Senate, so.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next up, we have, moving on to old business, approval of the Memorandum of Understanding. Dan, I get you to, move that?
Yeah, very
Okay.
yeah, sure.
Could I get a seconder, Dylan? Okay, Dan, do you wanna motivate for it?
Yeah, sure. So this is also a pretty huge thing. This is a memorandum of understanding that has been in the works for the last 3 years or so. And coming in this year, something that our executive wanted to definitely put as a priority on the table to ensure that we get this done properly and in a timely manner, because this document outlines all of the rules and responsibilities of the agricultural campus, but also defines very clear boundaries and distinctions between responsibilities. So for example, in this document, it stipulates that the agricultural campus and the Agricultural Students Association will be responsible for doing things like coordinating their campus activities, operating their campus pub, publishing their own campus newspaper. So really ensuring that that they have that certain level of autonomy and responsibility to do what's best for them there. It's a pretty comprehensive document. We went down to the agricultural campus last week to finalize up all of the sort of wording and all of the various aspects of student life down there and organizational life down there that we could cover in this document. And I can tell you that there was a lot of looks of relief around that table after the meeting was done, because we had finally worked out this document that worked for both us and for them. So that's here for approval. And I hope everyone got a chance to read it. I'm sorry that it only came through on Monday. That was my fault. I wasn't sure if we were gonna bring it to this council meeting or the next council meeting, but it was ready for this one, and we're just hoping to kind of get it out of our vision for now, so we can start focusing on other things as well.
So our speakers list, Bart and then Holly.
So I've got two questions. One's pretty simple and one's just more abstract. Point 15, where it says document should be reviewed every 3 years. Any proposed amendments must be referred to DAS at least 90 days before they present it to DSU Council. Does that mean that DSU Council can amend this every 3 years without approval of the DASA Council?
So that was something that we definitely talked about around that table, and I think we had talked about having their governing body or their either DASA or Society Review Committee, we have to give them adequate notice, or if we want to make a change to this document, we have to create that change or propose it, and it says here 90 days, or we have to give them quite a bit of notice. And I think it is still the 90 days,
Yeah.
like they have to be notified 90 days in advance, so we would give them notice the 90 days, if they didn't want that change, then they have a full 90 days to express why they don't want that change, why they think it's a bad change, and, I mean, then we would take,
Resolve it.
yeah, exactly. And then after the 90 days, we could take it to council, and I think it would be against best judgment to make a change that they don't think is appropriate for the council, but in essence, I suppose, yes, we could.
Okay.
Okay, Holly and then Kaylee.
Okay, I just have a direct point,
Okay.
just to make it clear, it's not the 90 days notice and the amendments is not connected to the 3-year term. So if we wanted to make amendments in a time if we get
Not
2 years
in that
into
90 days.
2 years into this agreement and we realize, oh, this one thing isn't working and we wanna make a change, that's possible with the revision clause.
Holly?
Yeah, on number 3 there, it said that students will pay like a student fee and also a distance fee. What is the distance fee?
So distance fee is like a fee because they are in like a different city on a different campus, so by policy we have to charge them a distance fee. So that's what that is.
Interesting. Like what does that go towards?
So right now I'm not sure the way that we're doing it now, the way that it will be done is they will like send us the distance fee and then we will is redact the right word? No, not redact.
Remit?
Remit?
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, just remit the distance fee back to them. And we're looking at like the governance review, like Kaylee said, like the governance review is in progress. We actually have our first meeting on Thursday, which is exciting. But we're looking at those like inefficiencies in society policy that are like kind of weird.
So there is already a distance fee that all students who are, so students in Yarmouth, for example, pay, and it's to recognize that they don't receive the full services of the DSU. So it's a nominal fee. It's $5 a semester.
Request for information?
Yes.
So just so I understand that correctly, they get less services from us, so we charge them for it?
Wait, that's.
Yeah, it's
No,
true.
they don't pay, but they don't pay the regular fee.
Okay.
So they don't pay the
So
standard.
they pay less.
Yeah, so they pay a $5 fee instead of the full student union fee to reflect that they don't.
That was confusing.
Bart, I have you up next.
Alright, this is gonna be, so, sorry, again, for section 15, is that unilateral that we can modify this, like, without their input, and then they can only remit from being part of it every 3 years? I'm sorry, just, like, section 15 kinda confused me, so, after 2 years, we're like, hey, we don't like, the fact that they can have a distance fee, they should pay the full fee, and we vote as a board to change it. Does that immediately put this memorandum of understanding back to, like, the table, or does that just modify it and they're stuck for the extra year?
The issue is that we would provide them notice of any amendments to the, like, our requirement is to provide them notice of any amendments that are gonna come forward.
Okay, so we can still just make unilateral amendments post-notice?
The Dalhousie Agricultural Student Association is a society of the DSU. So because our constitution says that we are responsible for the administration of societies, we can't give over that power to the society. So for example, we can't allow anything in this agreement that would contravene society policy, which is what you folks set as the council. So or anything that would contravene the bylaws, which is set by the membership. So in essence, what happens is that we have to give them, the way that we've discussed that with them, is that we would give them 90 days notice, and that we understand that and think it would be very rare that the council would not respect the needs of the executive there.
Okay.
I have William up next.
Query about this process stuff, and while it's going to be subject to change with governance review stuff, but how does BOPS fit into this process specifically? Because a lot of the kinds of changes which we'd be talking about or considering the agreement kind of reflect by nature need to hit up the BOPS at some point.
So sorry, I may just misunderstand your question. So, and maybe I should have opened with this. But this went to Bob's before it came here?
No, not this specifically, but in future changes.
So any like amendments?
Yeah, cause it's just a structural thing. Like I'm just not seeing the divide there necessarily. Cause wouldn't it have to go for any changes to any of our agreements with Loving Society?
Like the changes to the agreements, would they go to Bob's, like for any levy societies that you're asking?
Yeah, to some capacity. Before
Yes,
coming to
yeah.
council. And so that would, okay, it's just, it doesn't specify that there, so it's a little bit more.
So I think that's outlined in our bylaws and our policy, so we didn't wanna like put in a bunch of bylaw and policy wording in here, because it's already outlined in the government
Okay,
documents.
that's just a little bit ambiguous, the fact that it's not actually there, it doesn't. Okay.
Okay. Holly, did I call on you earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't have your name crossed off, so, Derek.
So is it, so do the only fee that they pay to the DSU is the $5 fee, and then they pay more than that?
So they do.
So technically, what they pay, we all give them back. So there is a term called distance fee, but for DASA, we return them. We didn't keep anything.
Oh, okay.
But we have this small distance campus in Yarmouth Nursing, and they paid $5 distance fee, and that came to us. So that was an added.
Cool.
And just the reason for that is that our bylaws, you'll remember or some of you might remember that last year in the election, it was unclear about whether or not students at the agricultural campus could vote, partly because the membership requirements are that in order to be a member, you need to both be a student at Dal and pay the membership fee, and at the time, they weren't paying the membership fee, and so this is a way that we ensure we adhere to those membership requirements. Now, I think in the governance review, there will be some a change to that to make it more clear, but that's kind of where this is.
Or was there a question you had?
Yeah, just actually that follows up really nicely. So they don't pay any fees with regards to the radio or to any of those things, but I noticed that they do have, like, they have voting rights for relevant referenda. So would that mean that they won't have voting rights with regards to referenda for additional student fees? And is there a way to make that more explicit so there's not a discussion of what does relevant mean 3 years from now?
Mm-hmm. Do you happen to have any suggestions for wording there?
Can I just, sorry, the referendum questions all have to clearly state whether or not they apply to both the Halifax campus or if they apply to the Halifax campuses or both the Halifax and Toronto or Bible Hill campuses.
Okay.
So, it would be the case that it would only be referenced to fees that they have to pay.
Okay.
They're not gonna, I'm just, DASA has said that they're like cool with this, and so for like changing, if we make amendments, I think probably we would want to ask them about it.
And no, I'm not necessarily saying there's amendments, and if that's how the referenda questions are already phrased in policy, that's great. I just don't want people who aren't affected by referenda to be able to vote in the referenda, and relevant could mean so many things. But if there's already rules in place to make sure that they're excluded from those referenda, that's perfect. That's all I need to know.
The university makes us ensure on the question, it says who will be charged the fees, and so the agricultural campus students won't even see the referendum questions that they can't vote in.
Okay. And okay, no, that's good. That's good.
Okay, seeing no one else in the speakers, let's go William. Yeah.
Just a last question. This is kind of just a process question, but can you give a short synopsis of why it's taking so long for this, considering we rolled the AC in 2.5 or 3 years ago at this point?
Yeah, sure. I can mainly speak to my time, like and how the process has gone for me. I can't really speak to the relationship of past executives of DASA and the DSU, but it's a lot of. So right now we're doing a lot of email correspondence, and there are a lot of players involved that need to go through and review like any changes to wording. As this is it will be like a document that is hopefully all encompassing but not too restrictive. We just wanted to ensure that like proper due process was given to it. I think a lot of it was also trying to figure out wording that worked for both groups. So for example, for a long time in there was wording around I think Kaylee was touching on it earlier, wording around changes to this document, and a long time it was like, oh, like mutually agreed upon changes, but then we, like after doing like the due diligence, realizing that actually goes against society policy, and we actually can't have mutually agreed upon changes to this document. So it's kind of just going through this document, ensuring that it falls in line with constitution, with society policy, and that stuff just takes time, considering like all the other things that are also going on at the same time. Also, the university admin, specifically like student services, were also involved in this, so that's just another party that we have to involve. Like, okay, here's the document, review. Do you like it? Are there changes you want to see? If there are changes, then we make those changes. Then we go through the whole. Okay, here, review it. It's just been a lot of that back and forth.
Okay, seeing no one else in the speakers list, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of approving the memorandum of understanding? All those opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Next up, we have the audited financial statements, and we have approval for those moved by Mabuber. Is there a seconder for that? We'll do Dan on that one. Mabuber, do you want to motivate for that and discuss the financial statements?
Yes, I guess everyone has the document. I'll highlight the main things of this and then answer some questions if there is any. So the last year's financial documents is online. If anyone want to compare with that, that's available still, and we publish this online as well. So I'll start with the last page, the schedule 9. If you last page. Yes. So I'll start with here because how much student pays, I think that's a good point to start. So the total student fee we collect, that's the top number, around 2.6 million. And as you can see, it is broken down into where it goes. We have all the levies. A few of them are more than $100,000. But after deducting all this levy, 1.793 million came to DSU, and some of them are restricted, like the renovation fund. We only use that for renovation, the facility improvement and the accessibility. So the amount left is like 1.2 million to play with. So that is part of the student fee that came to DSU operations. I'm referring to this year's number. You can compare with the last year if you want to. So keeping that in mind, we have 2.6 million from student fee and 1.2 million is going to operation. I'll see now the summary page. That will tell the whole story. What's the page number? The first page. First page with numbers. I think it's page 4. No, this way. No, the next one. The next one.
Yeah, probably that's I get it. This one?
This one. So this is the summary of the whole year expense, and we have different columns to explain how it works. So 2015 column is the total expense and the revenue of the year. We can compare with 2014, the last column. And the first, the middle two is the operating fund, the actual one, and another separate column for the restricted fund, because as the audited statement is prepared, we have to show all the restricted fund, including the health plan fees in our statement. So to make it more clear, that is in a different column. And the very first column is the budget. And the budget, I would say it was the revised budget, which was passed in last December. So the revised budget, when I took the office, we had a budget of a deficit of $15,000. And then we approved a revised budget on December. I think the number is around a surplus of 87,000. And the real actual fund, as you can see, it shows that 17,000 surplus. And the reason behind that, we have the orientation surplus that in the previous council meeting, we decided to move that to this year's orientation. So last year's orientation surplus came to this year's orientation, that is around 58,000. And there is a part of the amortization that you can't budget in the start of the year. So that I think if we put those two numbers in context, we're right on the number, starting from the budget revision to the end of the year. So that was great. From the total amount, I would say it's around $7 million budget, including the health fee. So in total, we had $958,000 surplus, and $940,000 is the restricted amount. And apart from this $940,000, I would say part of that is renovation, because this year renovation we didn't spend that much on last year. We're spending from this year onwards, and it will go on. So that is not showing that number, that renovation fund was not spent. And international health plan, as you can see in the numbers, it's showing last year we had 968,000 spending. This year 600 something. It's not about that we're spending less. It's more about the timing of it. So the timing structure, how we pay our international health fund provider has changed. So now we are paying monthly. So the way it was calculated in our financial year started from April to March, and the health plan year is from September to August. So the change of payment brought back that the number lower down, but this will catch up in this year's number, so that will balance out. And apart from that, I would say in the summary, as you can say, comparing to last year, most of our operations and services were more efficient or doing better, so that was a good indicator. And for the contract front, we lost, because last year we had 117,000, this year we had 100,000, but the current year would be lower. As you know, we still the travel car space that's in backend, and of course the other operations as well, so that will be lower this year. And on top of that, if you want to go through the specific schedule, I'll show you some important ones. At first, I'm to show you the internal restricted funds. Oh, and another thing about the investment. Oh, for the health plan deficit. So as you can see, our health plan, we have 2.58 million revenue and 2.65 million expense. So that's a loss for the year we had. But if you consider the investment income from the health plan, because we have we had more than 3 million in health plan investment. Now we had a lower amount, but the investment of that balances out the deficit. So technically, we lost money on health plan last year, but with the investment income, we didn't lose the money. But this year actually might not be the same story. We need to review that again. So with the investment, I think after divestment, we have few months of the last, at least 3 months of our operation. So still the numbers looks good. Last year we have 195,000 from investment, including the health plan, and this year's 226,000. So it's better. But from the current year, I would say it will be lower down, because we have to sell some of our investment due to cover the health plan cost in the summer. So that will, the income will be lower this year. So as we can go through to the page of the restricted incomes, that is page 6. No, page 6. I think page 6 of the. Read? Yes.
Like page 6.
6 written in the bottom.
Got it.
So this is more explanation of the restricted fund, as I talked about. The facility improvement fee, and especially renovation, we have some money in the renovation that will be we're using this year and will continue. One thing is there, the accessibility fund. We have $162,000. We have to decide on that amount moving forward. But other than that, I think facility and renovation is ongoing. Health plan, with the inclusion of the reserve fund, we're not in deficit, but if you consider the regular health plan, we are in deficit. And for the schedule operation, the schedule 1, next page. The next one. So this is all our bar services, the Greywood, Tea Room, and all other events with bars. So as you can see, still we are running deficit, but it's lower than last year. Last year we had 131,000 deficit. This year, 103,000. So that's still we are running on deficit, but we're trying to lower it down. And next page.
I have a quick request for information.
Mm-hmm.
On that bar services, is that all like Greywood, Tea Room, everything lumped together as one?
Yes, this includes.
Can they be separated?
Yes, that will separate in the budget. So when that can be separated, but how the audit assessments work, all the similar services they put it together.
Yeah.
And if you want to know the raw information, that can be provided as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So this bar service include 4 departments like the Greywood, Tea Room, our events with bar service, and of course the bar service provided to the societies.
Babur, could I interrupt quickly? Should I ask people to hold their questions until the end? Do you want to do it as I go? How long do you think the presentation?
I think I don't need that much time. I can finish.
Okay. Do you want to wait, Corlin? Sorry?
I have all my questions written down, so.
Okay.
Okay. So for the next page is mainly so next page is like all the admin stuff. Yes, all the administrative stuff. As you can see, last year we paid our membership fee to SNS. That was included here, and of course these salaries in this schedule includes all the exec salary, all the commissioners, all the staffs that works in this category, not directly to any department. So those are included here, and we have legal fees and insurance. All those covers in this. The election costs are there, the conference and all the administrative costs are accumulated here. And as you can see, we are the salary increases a little bit, but of course the management was efficient. We spent less this year. And in terms of programming, as you can see, last year we had $101,000 more expense. I'd not call it a deficit. We expense more than the revenue, but it was less that last year. Because of last year we had more sponsorship in terms of orientation and others. As you can see, more sponsorship came, but I would say the programming level of programming was almost same. So it was done efficiently. I would say that, and of course some of these revenue, the sponsorship, was transferred to this year's orientation. So that was not that we spent less on programming. We spent the same amount, but bulk of the money we didn't spend directly on programming from the sponsorship was transferred to this year. And food service, I think last year we lost money on the food service. It's not always true that you're having a food service provided by food service provider, you're earning a lot of money. So that was the case last year, lost money. This year we had some money, especially due to change of the agreement with them. We changed the agreement last year with them that would share the profit rather than giving them the management fee, and it works in favor of us for a little bit. But moving forward, we might have a better model. But this year was not a deficit as it was last year. For the other retail service, actually represent the campus copy. Last year it was kind of balanced, but this year we have some revenue. That's great. Mentioning that we provide low cost service, so that was a good management, I would say. So we have some revenue on that department. The next schedule is the operations. So it mostly includes the building operations. So the revenue is showing income is the rental. So it's like it's from the tech and other stuff, that those rentals, and all the expense, the salaries of the staff related to this building, and and other operations. And so these went up, and mostly because of the salary increase, as you can see. Because we and this don't include only the staffs who are working in the direct operation of the building, but most of our full-time staffs are included in this salary. So this year we have one more full-time staff, so that had an implication of that. But I would say whatever budget we have, we spend less, so that was a good sign on this department. The next one is the reservation. Reservation has a steady income over the years. So last year we had 56,000. That is more than we budgeted for. But this year is challenging for reservation, as you know, we barely have any meeting room. So this year would be a challenging year for this department, and we're expecting a deficit in this department. For the next Tiger Patrol, so it's number-wise, it's the same numbers from the last year, but how it works, we had one of our van got fired, so so we had some money from the insurance to cover for a new van. So other than that, it's good, but whatever we're experiencing that we had a little bit more expense than the budgeted one because of Tiger Patrol. Now we're using that more than other services, so that's fine in terms of servicing the students and stuff. So it's a steady around 30,000 expense per year for the Tiger Patrol. So I think that brings us to the last page we already explained. So I would say the last year was my first year as BPFO, and I would say with the help of all the executives and full-time staffs, we had a good year in terms of finance. The budget was not only balanced but was in surplus one, and that was not by cutting any service or cutting anything. We added a lot of service, so that was a great note. But on that note, this year is a challenging year in terms of numbers, so lots of challenges. So maybe I'll talk about that more in next meeting when we are presenting the budget revision. But I would say comparing to last 2 years, 2013 and 14, 2015 was a better year. Thank you.
Thanks, Babu. So I'll start a speakers list going, and just emphasizing that we do have a few things left on the agenda, so we'll try and, not to cut discussion at all, but just try and be brief in both questions and answers, just to the point. Bart and then Corlin.
Okay, cool. I'll start with one that I got from some individuals in my constituency. It's discussing the fact that we have a qualified approval, or a qualified opinion for the budget. I recognize that for the last 3 years we've had qualified opinions, while also recognizing that since we've switched accounting companies, the qualified opinion has expanded as to why it's qualified. So the individual from my constituency that spoke to me was from the U of C, who receives unqualified opinions for their student union, and I'm from the University of Regina. So U of C is bigger, University of Regina is smaller, and we both receive unqualified opinions. So I guess I'm just curious, are we okay with getting a qualified opinion? Are we taking steps to getting it to be unqualified?
Unqualified.
Sorry, so at the start of the document it says that we have a qualified opinion based on reasons, which I'm sure makes sense from an accounting perspective. But I know that bigger student unions and smaller student unions are able to get unqualified opinions. And I mean, at the end of the day, an unqualified opinion is going to be better than a qualified opinion. And I'm curious if there's a reason why we've been getting qualified opinions for so many years, and if we're taking steps to try and get from being unqualified, or to get from being qualified to unqualified in approval.
So I'm not 100% sure what the difference would be. Maybe I'd look into that. But if it means we'll get more explicit numbers or their opinion on those things, that we'll look into. But sure what that will add. If that would add something beneficial for the students, we can start the conversation.
I have both Corlin and Kathleen
I would-
indicating they might have an answer to
Yeah,
this.
no, I was just saying, like, as a request for information for the floor, people might not know what qualified versus unqualified are. So maybe if one of you could explain that, that would be super stellar. Maybe I can just give some.
Sure,
Okay.
Kat.
So when we receive an audit, generally, basically the auditor is determining whether or not, the financial practices of the union are in line with generally accepted accounting principles, and then the auditor, based on what it looks at, including being in our office, reviewing all of our documents, determines, if we've done everything in line with our, in line with what's required. And so you'll see here in the audit on the first page, it does say that there's a basis for a qualified opinion, which means that there is an item that it couldn't fully assess in the way that it would like to. It doesn't mean that we're necessarily not aligning with principles. It's just saying that it didn't have the full set of information that was required. I just wanted to also add that it is one of the things that is kind of unique about the Dalhousie Student Union is that we are the direct managers of the Student Union building, whereas a number of other student unions have separate entities or separate ways of kind of a dual management structure of both the building and the operations contained within the building and the student union operations, and sometimes that leads to some complexities. I'm not saying that that's at play here, but just an additional piece of information about what makes our financial statements a bit more complicated than some other student unions, larger, smaller, same size, that have a separate corporate entity that deals with the building.
Corlin.
That was like one of my main questions was about the qualified opinion too, because it said the qualified opinion is based on the inability to verify the revenues, since all records of a lot of our revenue sources are internally generated, and like internally generated sources are the least reliable when it comes to auditing. So my question was very similar, like do we have plans to mitigate this concern, to like put more controls in place to allow for more reliable records, so that our, cause that's like the main reason we're, I guess, qualified right now from what it says. And it seems like there's controls that we could put in place that would be easy.
Thanks, Corlin. Do you have a response to that?
Well, I need to go back because if it looks like that we need to pull, we need to gather a lot of information, and it's not with capacity of the accounting staff and requires more staff hours, or even adding one more staff, that might be, but I'm not sure. So I'll look into that, talk to the accounting and auditor.
Mo.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, we have, we have a situation with the grad house and owing money to DSU as to the grad house, but that's not reflected in the budget at all, and so I'm wondering about that.
So request for information real quick. The grad house owes the DSU, or the DSU owes the grad house?
The grad house owes the DSU.
Sorry.
So those will not be part of our budget, but that will affect the cash flow. So as you can see, our current assets and liability, what are the cash we have and what are the cash on hand. You can really, if you pull out those numbers, there will be numbers that yes, these, if you see the AR, amounts receivable,
yeah,
we have other, so we have $477,000 AR. Most of them are from different societies, so that will be part of that number.
Okay, yeah, William and then Corlin. William first.
Within the administration section, I think it was. Why did we make revenue in the actual 2014 from miscellaneous stuff with council administration? I'm just kind of wondering, because that's
So-
what the hell is that revenue from?
So actually, I know I know why it's there because the year before, the either food banks or farmer markets, that was initiative came with the strategic initiative that was part of this.
Oh, yeah, that one.
And some maybe some donation or that kind of thing came. So that was part of that department goes there. Now they have their own separate departments.
Corlin?
Okay, I think this is a point of information, 'cause it's a question, but I'm just curious what cause we run, like, this is a business, what the accountability is for example, manager of bar services, since they, like, to be held to the budgets that we predict, because it seems like we have huge variances in our budget, and I don't know if people are being accounted and held responsible for those variances, or if we're just going with the flow, because that's like almost 25% off in the negative direction for specifically that area, and it's just, in a business you wouldn't allow that, so I don't understand our processes.
Yes, I think that's a very good point. But when you're making the budget revision in like this time of the year, in October, we're predicting the income for next 6 months. And I think most of the deficiency which say on the income side rather than the expense, because of you can't predict actual sales. So that's the most part of it. But I would say comparing to last year's, it's better. Last year the budget was 76,000 deficit. We have actual 131,000. This year's 87 to 103. I think we're close. But I would say bar business is not a profitable business over the campuses, and we can debate how margin of loss would be there. But of course, it's very difficult to predict the actual sales 6 months ahead.
Okay. Seeing no other Bart.
Sorry, I do have a question, but also, like, bars can be profitable. I know there was at least 1 year profitability back home. Like, it is an option. I had a couple questions. One, you said that amortization was supposed to be hard to budget for. I'm curious, like, we use straight line amortization, so it should be pretty easy to budget for. Just what did you mean exactly by that it being hard to budget for?
So if we are doing a budget for this year, we don't know how much we are actually spending money on items that can be amortized. So that can varies, because some items you have amortization over 5 years, some over 3 years, and so that's why rather than predicting a number, it's better to have some of the numbers the back end.
Again.
So we lump together the bars and bar services. Do you think that's a good thing, or do you think that's a negative thing? And can we not lump them together going forward?
No, I think for this audited statement purpose, it's good to have all the similar things together. But for our budget, we have all like 4 different departments, and you can go through them separately. For the audited statement, as we are making it public, I think it makes sense. For the budget, we have 4 different departments. You can go on that.
Well, it's okay, Bart. I mean, this is an important thing. I get that. But if it is something going forward, we can save this for a future meeting. If it's something about the current statement. But if it's something that you want to see in future statements, keep in mind this can be brought up at a future meeting.
I don't think it's just something going forward. It's just a question about kind of values that we have for the financial statement. You mentioned like that we were selling investments to pay for the health plan. Do you think that's a good thing for us to be doing?
Yes, because that was the purpose the money was kept aside. We're not using for any other purpose rather than health plan. So, and at that current point in summer, we had no other option. So that was the thing we can do.
Yeah.
So, like, given that, like, I don't know about other societies, so for, as I know, like, already you guys know that what is the standing up grad house and also DAGs. So, given that our constituents, so do you think that there is any possibility that in the near future, like in the next budget line, you can put forward for the societies if they need some financial help from DSU, budget line or something, you guys can move forward, like go forward, rather than we being like in debt, but you can expand the help, like helping hand through the financial assistance, so there can be possible to have a budget line like that. Right now, we owe like 50K to DSU, right? So.
So I think as I'm doing audit all the levied and type 1 society, most of them have significant amount of money in their account, carryovers, so they're in good shape. Yes, and of course, in terms of DAX, yes, if we consider only DAX financial, it's not that bad, but to have the burden of grad house, it becomes, I think, so yes, we can have those specific conversation with grad house, and of course, I know apart from, there was only one society I had that was in red last year's, but apart from that, a lot of society have their carry over from the last year over the year, so I think they're good, and I think that needs to be discussed at some point if we can do something from our regular budget, or there is any other way to help that out.
Getting out like accidental like society help or like assistance kind of that kind of budget line, so that any society is not even right now DAGs or in grad house future, it's other societies or any services if it's needed.
Amber, and then I think we can maybe proceed to a question soon after.
I have a question. If the grad house or the Greywood is a money pit that you keep throwing money at and it's losing money, why is it still open?
So I think it's a question about how you view it. If you view it as a student service, it's a place for students to go and have some good time. It has a value that don't show the numbers here. And I think it's a discussion of where is the cutoff point when you think that yes, we can afford up to this much. We can start the conversation and have it, but I think it's not only the numbers that make you to have those decisions whether we should open it or close, but for your information, in the near future, grad house will be having a different size, a smaller in size, and I think that will contribute some sort of impact on this number. I hope that will be in a positive way, but still we can always review this if councillor want to have a full review on the grad house and other operations, you can do that, but I think only the numbers are not the determinant factors that whether we should open that.
Jeremy, just a point of information.
Yep.
What was the society that was in a deficit last year? You mentioned there was one society that was in the red last year. I'm wondering what society was that, and also how much they were in the red.
It was not that much. It was not that much. So I because
I mean, I'd love it if you could quantify it, not that much, because your budget does talk about $2 million. So not that much might mean $10,000, or it might mean $5.
I would say around $2,000, and it's decent. What?
Okay. Okay, so I think it's time to be proceeding to vote on the approval of the audited financial statements. All those in favor of the audited financial statements?
I have a question
you can challenge me. I did at my chair's discretion call it there. All those opposed? Okay. Okay, moving on to the agenda. The motion passes. You want that noted? Yes. Virginia, can you note that? Okay, next up, election dates motion. Dan, you wanted to move that?
Yeah, sure.
Seconded Dylan. Can you move it?
Yeah, sure. So, as touched on at the last council meeting, we're just setting up the dates for the elections. So you have up on the screen a very clear timeline of when all of the dates are, whether it's the nominations, campaign period, and when the voting opens and closes. I would like to make a motion to amend, but does that come after?
Yeah, we'll get that after you finish motivating for it, and if that's it.
I mean, I hope everyone's pretty motivated.
Okay, and what is it that you would like to see amended, Dan?
I'd like to motion to amend the when the voting results are released. I think we had talked about having it on the same day as when the voting closes. Wednesday, March 16th of 2016. And are we gonna wanna add specific times in there?
Um,
We could amend to include specific times. So let's say, for example, voting closes Wednesday, March 16th, 2016 at 4 p.m. Voting could open up at Monday, March 14th, 2016 at 8 a.m. And then voting results can be released Friday, March 16th at like Wednesday, March 16th
I
at.
don't think we need to get a time for that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Just 'cause like what if something.
Okay, so, is that the amendment then, Dan? Harry, did you?
Yeah.
Query, question.
Like point of information?
I just wanna know something about why something like something.
Okay, we'll wait until we get to the discussion on the motion, we just wanna get this sorted out first. Dan, is that good for the amendment?
Yeah, that looks adequate.
Yeah, okay. Could I get a seconder for the amendment?
Can I have a point of information? for
Yes.
the amendment? Is that possible? Is it like unnecessarily limiting to put the times in? Could we work on that later? So it doesn't have to come back to council?
We had discussed.
Well, let's just get a seconder first for the amendment, and then we'll vote on it, and that's gonna be a relevant consideration. Do I have a seconder for Corlin? We'll have discussion on the amendment that's been proposed, everyone's clear on that? Okay, discussion, Dan, do you wanna talk about the amendment quickly?
Yeah, sure. So I think our main motivation for having just the specific opening and closing times is to ensure that we do have a certain period that is dedicated to voting. So I mean, if we are leaving it open, yeah, sure, we could determine it. But I don't know, I think this is just, it provides clarity, it provides structure. I think that's good, especially around campaigning and voting periods. It's nice to have that clarity.
Bart, discussion the amendment specifically?
Yes. 2 points. One, yes, it's really good that we have like those timeline structures in place. I would just like make sure to be very cogent of the fact that those times are in place, and to really double check that all of the pieces are in place to make sure that'll go up. Because if it doesn't and the timelines are in place, then that could really call into question the entire election. On that note, I would like to propose an amendment to the amendment.
You can, yeah.
To be that the voting results released between Wednesday, March 16th and 8 p.m. Thursday, March 17th, just in case something goes wrong with the voting mechanisms or the counting or anything of that nature, to make sure that you have more than 4 hours to deal with that issue.
This is unconventional, how do you feel about that amendment, Dan?
Well,
would you be friendly to it?
Can I just say what we didn't say
Sure,
the
yeah.
17th, because the 17th is St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
And so the usual way of releasing the result is at a party, and Seth and I had a conversation about why having an elections party on the 17th might not be ideal.
Oh no, I'm with you.
But I just want to explain the system for folks who don't know. It is an online system. We have the results instantly once elections are closed. We can time when the elections open and close.
Just to add to that also, like if anything were to ever go wrong, we would anyways release it at any time, the soonest amount of time that we'd be able to make it, so I think that the amendment is a bit irrelevant.
Do you wanna go ahead with the amendment?
Yeah, and just respond very quickly if I can to like.
I wanna get a seconder first for
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
for
no,
the
that's
amendment
good.
to the
That's fine.
amendment. And what is the amendment to the amendment exactly specifically, could you state it?
Voting results released between Wednesday, March 16th, 2016 and Thursday, March 17th, 2016 at 8 p.m.
That's the voting results?
Yeah.
Did you get that, Kelly?
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second it.
Jeremy? Can I get a really quick motivation for it and one against, and we're gonna go back to the.
Yeah,
previous
really
stuff.
quick motivation. Yes, I agree. Don't want it done on the 17th. That would suck. But I know that our society, specifically this year, we normally do electronic voting, and it fell apart right before voting actually happened. So we had to do like ballots and like hand counting, and it sucked. But I would hate for us to be tied into, it's going to be released March 16th, something goes wrong, and then yes, by convention we can do it later, but by what this says, we can't. And if what this says we can't do it, if something goes wrong, then it has to be an immediate re-election and people can complain. It's this whole issue. So if we tie ourselves down to the 16th and something goes wrong, then we're screwed. If we give ourselves a little bit of a buffer, then we can do it on the 16th and it's fine. But if it can't, then we have some safety without having to do a complete re-election.
And what I'm gonna do here is if I could just get 1 for, 1 against, I'd bark, kind of talk about how I could get a countervailing perspective. Is that you, Dylan?
Yeah.
Shoot.
So like the law thing was the law student society election was because it wasn't planned out, and like this election is obviously going to be well planned out. If we have to move to a hand ballot system, I don't think even that would be an adequate amount of time. Like that's not going to happen here. There's just there's no way.
Okay, we'll proceed to a vote on Bart's amendment to the amendment there, which is clear to everyone, I hope. Jeremy?
Point of information.
Yeah.
You said 1 for and 1 against. That was 1 against.
I was 1 for, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, is everyone clear on what we're voting on now? This is not Dan's amendment, this is the amendment which changes Wednesday, March 16th, specifically voting results released. All those in favor of the amendment proposed by Bart? All those opposed? Okay, it does not pass. Okay, back to Dan's amendment then, and that's the 8 a.m. and the 4 p.m. Sorry. It's 8 a.m. on Monday and then 4 p.m. on Wednesday. We don't have any modification for that yet. Is there any further discussion on this amendment? Daniel, yeah?
I'm remembering last year's March, it was crazy snow days, so if things like that happen, is there still time? Like, are we like sucking in like it's 3 weeks till this, it's 2 weeks till that? Do we have 4 weeks till the next thing, and then 3 weeks till the next thing, or is it like? Like,
4 weeks till what and 3 weeks till what?
like I know that there's like limitations in the policies and stuff like that that are like 4 weeks later this happens, and then 4 weeks later, and if something doesn't happen, do we have?
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for some things we have that, for other things we don't. So one of the things is that the biggest problem with setting election dates is that we also need to run referenda during this time, and all referenda that are approved need to go to the Board of Governors Operations Committee and be approved by that body so that they can be charged to students in the 2016-2017 year. The meeting that will approve those items happens at the end of March. Items are due for the agenda for that meeting on March 23rd, which is the same day that council will meet to approve these results. So if there's a snow day on March 23rd, it's gonna be bad, and so hopefully there's not a snow day on March 23rd. We can't move the election timeline any further back because we're already starting right after we get back from reading week. So we are in a little bit of a pickle in that context, but
Okay.
we're doing the best we can, and we did really well by passing changes to the elections policy last meeting, so that we're within that 4-month time frame, which had us push forward the elections
Yeah.
Do a quick follow-up.
timeline last time.
I'm fine with that as long as someone knows that that's the thing.
Corlin?
It just seemed a lot of people were worried about problems coming up with the date, and I was wondering if it would make sense to have just like blanket statement saying like all dates like allowable for reasonable variance due to like unforeseen like circumstances or something. Like if it would make sense if we had a blanket policy that just covered all those concerns, just like an additional.
Would you like to propose an amendment for that?
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that amendment? Yeah, Liam. Kaylee?
I'm just concerned because I think election dates have to be approved by council.
Yeah.
So if there were to be changes to these dates, we can't put in the dates that they were allowing for variance because the dates have to be approved by council.
Okay.
I'm just bringing that up as a policy concern.
Yeah, I know, it's a fair concern.
Yeah, it was more a question like if that was a like kind of statement that we could put in, then one that I think we like if it wouldn't fall within the realm of like being enforceable, it does make sense.
So Kaylee, do we then have the option to modify this at a later date? If a snow day happened, would council be able to do this? Okay, could I just suggest then, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
If it's not enforceable, there's no
Yeah.
just putting it in.
Is everyone okay with withdrawing that amendment? Unanimous consent for that? That's okay? Okay.
The other thing that people could do is that we don't have to say when we're gonna have the voting results released. Like, that's not a mandatory part of our policy. This is just conventionally how we've done election timelines. So if people wanted to strike it, we could. I think probably we're okay, but just that's a convention, not a policy requirement.
And sorry, just to bring it back, we are still on the amendment here. Any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, all those in favor of the amendment proposed by Dan for the times in there? Okay, all those opposed? Motion passes. Is there discussion now on the main motion? Yeah, Polly, sorry.
Yeah, so I've been a part of campaign teams for the last few years for different people who are running, and I found that, and I think it was like this way last year too, having a campaigning period that is that long is like pretty exhausting. I guess I'm just wondering like what other people's thoughts are on that, like if other people felt that way too, like, yeah.
Yeah, Dan, do you want to respond to that? And Dylan?
Yeah, no problem. So having run in the last election, I find you're right. Campaigning for that long was exhausting, but for me anyways. But I think that having it any shorter, like I would actually prefer a longer campaign period, so that I could reach out. You know, like I would have been able to reach out to more people. Like I felt a lot of the exhaustion and a lot of the anxiety that came along with campaign period was like having to pack my days like completely full from like sun up to sundown, trying to like reach out to as many people as I could have possibly. So I think here we're trying to reach. I think it's a couple of days longer than last year's campaign period, but it's not like a whole lot longer, I guess. So we were kind of trying to reach a happy middle. But I agree with what you're saying. It is exhausting to be campaigning for a long period of time, and we should be happy it's not like 70 days or 76 days. like the national campaign period. But I agree with what you're saying.
Sorry, I know I hadn't recognized you earlier. I know you wanted to speak.
Yeah, actually I wanted to talk about the motion that Dan and
Oh, I'm sorry.
So dates or the timeline for the elections. The one we talked with Kaylee, it was opening at 12:01 a.m. Monday, and it was supposed to close at 11:45 p.m. on Wednesday. So we could announce the results on Friday, not the same time mistake. But I think that was 72 hours or close to 72 hours for voting, so people could vote or had the chance, more chance to vote. But if the council wants to go at 4 p.m., that's.
I'm really sorry, Seb. I totally forgot to recognize you, and that would have been very, very germane. I'd wait for a councillor to propose an amendment to reopen it. Yeah, leave it at that. Dylan, yeah, sorry,
Can
Kaylee.
I just explain? So
Yeah.
this is that was what was done last year, but we discovered kind of later that wasn't the standard practice. It was done that way last year because we had a bit of a compressed timeline, and so and we had a week. We had to like accommodate the weekend. So in this way, we've actually maintained that voting is only going to be on school days, which is why it's the amount of time. It being shortened is probably fine. And on the long campaign period, we lost 2 campaign days last year to snow days, which really did have has a huge impact on not just the candidates but also on turnout. We did do well in increasing turnout last year, but not having those 2 days talking about elections, telling people what's going on, it does really impact things. So if there were 2 snow days in a row again in March, we would be in a better place. We'd be in a better place this time. Just that's up.
Dylan.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say the same thing. Basically, it just helps with engagement, like getting students there to vote. And that's why I think one of the reasons we had more success last year with voter turnout was because there was extra time for candidates to reach out. I know it sucks if you're on the campaign team, but I think it's good for like the union to engage more students in our elections.
Okay, guys, I do think we should probably proceed to a vote now on the council dates as amended there, unless I don't see any other points. All those in favor of the motion as amended? All those opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Next up, the financial policy motion. Dan, you indicated you wanted to table this before, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, do we have to accept the motion before I can table it, or can I just motion to
No,
table?
just motion to table, yeah.
Cool, so I'll motion to table.
Yeah, seconded Dylan. Is there any opposition to tabling it? Okay, we'll take it by unanimous consent, the motion is tabled. Next up, we have discussion on the Native Education Counseling space. Dylan, do you wanna frame that discussion?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll just start by saying a few things. First I'm gonna say Tanse, and then you guys are all gonna say Manantau back. So I'm gonna be saying how, and you guys are gonna be saying I'm good. So Tanse.
Manantau.
Cool, you all just spoke some Michif. So there's roughly 50 different Aboriginal languages in Canada, and Michif, what you guys just spoke, is my mother tongue, or traditional language, not mother tongue. And it's not expected to survive the next 50 years. So we really want support on campus for those kinds of things. Another temperature check. How many people here are from Sexton campus? How many of you are Aboriginal in this whole room? And you don't have to respond if you don't want to. So that's just me. So we're also 15% of the Canadian population, less than 2.5% of the Dalhousie population. So we don't have a lot of visibility on campus. We also don't have a lot of voice on campus. The counseling unit is our one point of contact to each other and for culturally relevant support. Due to the renovations and the building of a new fitness facility, we at one point had a space in the upstairs of South House. It was great. It was a place where we could have kind of like a place that was our own. We could access counseling. We could also conduct our ceremonies without having to apply for accommodations beforehand. So somebody could come in with a crisis. We could, do a cleansing ceremony on the spot. That was great. And what we've been hearing from first year students is that they can't find it now. Returning students can't find it. I had a hard time finding it. I was on direct contact with Sarah Swasson, who's the Native Counseling coordinator. She's our one contact person. I found the space where it was supposed to be, and I'm looking around, I didn't see anything. I saw a couple doors. One of them didn't have a label on it or anything like that. The door was just cracked open a little bit. And I'm looking around and I asked where it was, and because Sarah heard my voice, recognized my voice, she said, "I'm in here, Dylan." So you have to go around the corner, you don't really see her because it's really not visible right now. And so there's first year students, Aboriginal students who have come in, they can't find it, they don't think they have any supports. They heard about the Aboriginal Students Association, and they've expressed this feeling of lack of identity, or lack of community, and lack of resources. So I think it's important that we talk about ensuring that the needs of Aboriginal students are addressed. I just wanted to be able to discuss that is a need that we have, and one that's falling through the cracks right now. See if there's anything else I want to talk about. The TRC calls to action, and that the university has a role to play, if you guys want, in being leaders in things like education, which is on one of the 94 recommendations, that universities should be providing language classes in Indigenous languages, like Michif, which isn't expected to survive, so my kids probably won't speak it. I didn't grow up speaking it, and that's really sad. Yeah, so I just wanted to open it up to conversation around that, as long as you think it's relevant.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. So I have a speakers list going. Daniel.
What building is it located in?
This one.
And is that going to change when the renovations are done?
We've been hearing. I asked where it was. I asked what's the general manager of the building? Craig. Asked him. He didn't know where it was. I got a call from Isaac saying, "Hey, we know that we've got space for you, but it's up to the university what exactly that looks like." So we don't know. Sarah might know. So I would have to book an appointment privately with Sarah to find out where that space is. Is that my responsibility to know? I would just like to have space. I'm a returning student. I know that I have the personal resources to engage in this issue, but another student who doesn't know that this resource exists doesn't.
Thanks.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say thanks for bringing that to the table. It's a very important discussion to have and want to have, and I'm glad that you brought it up. I'd like to touch on the space upstairs, which the executives recognize that it is much smaller than once before, and we have brought it up repeatedly that we have heard concerns about the amount of space and the amount of resources that they have been able to offer to students this year as compared to previous years. In terms of where the space is located and where it's going, I suppose, we are also in like repeated conversations asking about timelines, asking about like location, dedicated space, and I suppose that is on us to relay that to the students as we get updates. Right now, the plan is for that space to be moved to the career counseling wing, or I think it's like a wing of 3 offices and a larger sized waiting room that can be transformed. I'm unsure of how it'll look. I don't know that anybody is sure of how that'll look when the move happens. But I believe that is to happen in the upcoming month, in November. In terms of location in this building, I think that I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think after like moving forward from now, we especially as owners of the majority of the building can work towards it's like some level of like very visible signage or some sort of direction provided to students who are coming into the building looking for that space. So I appreciate and I think that we appreciate you bringing that up.
Harry and then Holly.
Yeah, I also just wanted to say thank you for bringing this up. And also, in terms of having space to do things like cleansing ceremonies, is that an issue with like this building itself? Or like,
sorry.
Yeah, no, just like, do you know if that's like a locational thing, like this building is why you can't do it, and like it needs to be somewhere like more like in one of like the houses or something like that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know that in Cree, Ojibwe, Anishinaabe, and Métis culture, which is mine, you need to have a window that you can open. Because of the way that you're pushing energy in and out of a space, you need to have a port in order to interact with. And even I would just assume, so I'm not sure if Sarah's window opens. I know that I'm quite sure that there's no specific ventilation in order to remove incense to protect other people who are sensitive to scents, which is a consideration that we recognize. But I just want to have the conversation. I'm not saying like, hey, this is bad, we need to change right now, or like anybody were to point any fingers. Just simply to raise the concern, and because right now it is something that has fallen through the cracks. And I would hope that anything that we do coming forward considers things that might fall through the cracks and prevent that from happening. And so I hope that the space that we do eventually get is the kind of space that does have that proper ventilation, so that we don't have to apply, wait for a response saying whether or not we're going to get those accommodations. We can just do it ad hoc, and that is fit for the ceremony that we want to conduct. A majority, it's a generalization, but I've never heard of I personally haven't heard of an Aboriginal society that hasn't approached health and existence in a holistic way that includes spirituality. So I couldn't receive culturally relevant counseling or support if there wasn't a spiritual aspect involved. And so we can talk about, including things like Maui Yomi. Today is Mi'kmaq History Month, by the way, or this month is. So yeah, it's important that those things are considered.
Holly.
So in moving forward and like potentially trying to get you like a better space, and also thanks for bringing this up. I think it's like super important too. Would this be under like the DSU's responsibility? Because it sounds like you are like in the DSU right now, or would you be also bargaining with the university?
I think it's, sorry,
go ahead, if you're done.
I'm done.
Yep. I think it's both.
Okay.
I think it's both, and again, it's not that, yeah, I don't want to say like, I think we are getting a new space.
Okay.
And we have high hopes for that new space, but we don't want it to not be talked about how there's this issue that's falling through the cracks, and I'm not 100% sure what that new space is gonna look like and that our needs are gonna be met.
Well, Saki first. You're okay? Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, Kaylee.
I was just gonna talk about the kind of overall process over the last like 6 months with the space from the house, but if you want.
Just to clarify, the reason I picked you was for speakers' rights, but it's up to you guys, whoever you would be.
Just that the DSU has been in communication with Sarah because folks might not know, but the Native Counseling Unit was located on South Street and shared a building with the South House. And that building, that house that they were in, is being demolished for the new Delplex. And so just that the South House is now on Seymour Street, and then for a while the Native Counseling Unit just wasn't told at all where they were going to be, which is unfortunate and really concerning, I think. One of the things I just wanted to mention is that the union was successful in coordination with South House and lobbying the university to invest in the space that they've been put in to make it accessible, including the building of a new ramp that will allow that physical access to the space that the South House is in. And I think that working together with the Native Counseling Unit, we can address any accessibility needs. The 4th floor isn't space it's space in the sub, but it's not space that's managed by the by the union. So just that space allocations we don't get to dictate what the space allocation is up there, but I think we could do a lot to if there is a need to put pressure to say, hey, like this space needs to be better. That's something that the union could do. And then in addition, just the folks who weren't around the table last year and didn't receive really important education about specific MIGMA services and the Native Counseling unit on campus, that most of the funding for that office is actually not provided by the university. It's actually provided by Indigenous organizations, and so it's the university provides space, and that's their contribution to the Native Counseling Unit. But the salaries of folks who work there, most of the programming costs are not at all from the university's budget.
Thanks, Kaylee. Okay, Dylan, I hope that was productive.
Yeah. I'll just my understanding, I think that Sarah is going to be employed by Dow now, which is good news. They're making progress, and we hope that continues.
Thanks, Dylan. Okay, so next up we have business of the executive. I'll just caution everyone, we do have 35 minutes left in the 3-hour window that we have, just to keep that in mind. And Dan, you have the floor.
Sure.
Sorry, can I just motion to go first because I have a meeting that's at 9?
Is there any objection to that?
Cool. Thanks. So my apologies, I was not able to put a report out this week. Things are busy. But I do have some exciting updates. So the student-led committee is now active and meeting, and people are still welcome to come and be a part of that. For those of you who don't know, the student-led committee is a newly formed committee this year that was in the hopes of having a lot more student input about what events go on campus and what we put our resources towards as a union. So we had our first meeting, it went really well, and folks are really excited to have some new ideas. So I'm really excited about that. Hashtag Halloween all week this week, so we have some pumpkin carving going on here in the sub on Thursday and at Sexton on Friday. And we also have 2 different Halloween parties. So one is all ages going on in the Greywood on Friday night. So anyone who is not 19 is going to be stuck in res, so they can come and have a good time, and there'll be cool contests and stuff like that. And then there's one on Saturday at the Greywood as well. So come find me for tickets. Everything is free for you awesome students. Tea room programming is officially up and running finally. So we've got regular programming going on. At least we're aiming for at least 3 events a month. So that's kind of our target right now that I'm working with my commissioners for. So if anyone went to the Catan tournament, anyone? No?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, sweet. Yeah, that was awesome. Cool. And then just another thing that I am officially working with a group on campus called the Sexual Assault Harassment Resource Group, who are all university members, and myself and the DSU Equity and Accessibility rep is also on that group, and I have started a smaller group of that group to work to make consent and alcohol education modules mandatory for students who are moving into residences in first year. So this is an initiative that I started back when I first started my job in May, and we did a trial run this September, got really good feedback, a lot of students participated in it, so we're hoping to put forth a proposal to the university for that. Cool, questions?
Thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, questions, Jeremy?
I just wanted to ask about connecting with the societies on Sexton, about events on Sexton. Namely, especially with Halloween, the pumpkin carving on Friday, which I only learned about, I think, today. That's actually an event that the Society of Undergraduate Planners and the MEGIC are actually doing that evening.
Yeah, I talked to Fiona about that, and we're now collaborating on it, so
Yeah.
I understand, that
So-
talking to societies about events is a good idea. Starting from now on, I'll make sure that I check in.
Yeah, and just to comment one more time, like Sexton Advisory Committee is a great place to bring events that are upcoming.
I have a time conflict with Sexton Advisory Committee, unfortunately, but yeah.
Perhaps someone from your committee can go.
I have Tori and then Corlin.
Just regarding Residence Relations Committee, I don't know if you're going to be involved with that again this year. That's something that I have a couple presidents have come to me just because I'm the only returning president this year regarding that. So I don't know if we have a timeline on setting that up.
Yeah, we are, yes, yeah,
Okay.
we want it to happen, we hope it will happen soon.
Okay.
And yeah, I think it's an awesome resource that we're really hoping to like get started.
Okay, thanks, Kathleen.
No, sorry, Corlin.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Corlin.
In terms of
Yeah.
student life committee meeting, how are we notified about that time?
Via your email?
I did not receive one, so I think we might have an error.
Okay, let's chat.
Okay.
We have a Facebook group now, so it's not this group.
Cool.
Jeremy?
For people who want to know about those meetings or attend those meetings, where can they find out how?
Yeah, they can just shoot me an email.
Shoot you an email? Okay.
Or like Facebook message, whatever.
Alistair?
Is this different or the same as the programming committee?
That's the one. Did you also?
I did not.
Okay, cool. Well, you'll be at the next one.
Okay, thanks, Kathleen.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for letting me.
Yeah.
Cool. There's a bunch of things in my report. MOU is finalized, so that's excellent. Took care of that today. Hooray. Met with the Alcohol Advisory Committee, approved a new set of society rules for sanctioned alcoholic events. So that's excellent. They're pretty much the exact same as they've always been. Attended and spoke at the Wallace McCain Learning Commons grand opening. If you haven't been there, go check it out. It's awesome. It's attached to the LSC. The open house was fantastic. Met with the Section Advisory Committee and Heather Sutherland to discuss food options on Section campus. Thought that was a very, very productive meeting. Talked about a bunch of different options that are, in my opinion, realistic for the situation that we're in now. So that's pretty exciting. If you want to know more about that, just email me. President's Fun Run. Met with a bunch of different society leaders. So president of the Law Student Society, DMCRT, DUES, the Mining Society, etc. Some Greek Council folks to talk about various issues that have come up. Biggest thing, flu shot clinics. The dates are in my report, October 27th all the way to November 19th. And a bunch of miscellaneous stuff that I thought were awesome. Cool.
Thank you. Any questions for Dan?
Quick question. Flu shot clinic. Is it happening at Sexton?
Yes.
Awesome. That's it. I can look up the details.
Okay.
I have the times and dates here.
Perfect.
We all have the times and the dates, flu shots.
Any other questions for Dan? Okay, I have a written statement from Caitlin. If there's no opposition, I'm going to read that out. She was unable to attend tonight, and it's just her report, her verbal report. I apologize that I'm unable to attend tonight's meeting, but I want to provide an update of some of the initiatives I've been working on. More details can be found in my written report, and please feel free to email me or come by my office if you have any questions. First and foremost, I've been busy working with societies to sort out a variety of issues on a daily basis. Everything from societies creating bank accounts and email addresses to helping societies plan out events and book space. I've especially been focused on the societies of space in the Student Union building to solidify the society office in the building and in Society Hub. We are currently working on a plan to promote the hub and the available services and resources it will have for our societies. I'm also thrilled to have the phone line extended until November 16th, thanks to the contributions of societies and faculties. We expect to hear a response from the university about our funding proposal to run the phone line for a year at the end of the week. If all goes well, we are planning to schedule our second round of training for those interested in volunteering. This Friday we are having a society fair on Sexton in the Alumni Lounge from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. where you can carve a pumpkin, check out societies, and grab some popcorn and snow cone. This is the first pilot event of what will hopefully be monthly society fairs on Sexton campus. This one primarily targets levied societies to showcase their services to Sexton students. However, other societies requested to participate and have been accommodated. Since there has been so much interest from societies, we are planning a second Sexton Society Fair to take place on Thursday, November 19th, with more details to come. I've hired a commissioner to review Tiger Society and research similar platforms, and will be looking to societies to participate in a consultation/feedback process on the system in ways we can improve it to better meet the needs of societies. I've also been doing a lot of work with Dan and the university on the Ombudsperson office. We are in the process of developing the terms of reference for the office, including accountability structures and mandate, as well as a job description for the Ombudsperson. In terms of communications, we are in the process of hiring some street team members. Website revamping has also been underway. So you may notice some slight changes and updates. We are working to reorganize the website to make information more clear and accessible, as well as take out information that is not correct or up to date. This is an ongoing process. Those are the main tasks I've been working on since the last council meeting. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts and concerns. Please continue to send me updates on events and that your societies are organizing. Like it indicates, email her if you have any questions on that report.
I circulated a report, but it was 2 pages, and I think some of you only took 1 page, so.
So get together with Magic.
Find a friend. Find a friend.
Okay, Uber.
Thank you. Actually, I'll be short. The financial statements, it's presented. Thank you all. The budget revision, we are working on that, and the next meeting will be presenting the revised budget on November 18th, and hopefully it will be voted on December 2nd. Another important thing, society audit. This week, October 30th, is the last deadline to submit audit for the fall, and I'm helping a lot of society to prepare their audits, so busy time with both audit and budget stuff, and not a lot of regular stuffs, and I think day-to-day stuffs. I don't want to specifically mention, but it's busy time of the year, as you know.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, next up, John.
Okay, so the biggest item of my report, of course, I already mentioned, was the Senate reform thing. We're going to get back to if I have extra time. Just a few things. Some second-year engineering economics students wanted some help with a class assignment where they would take an action to their MLA around payday loan lender. It was interesting, and I did a workshop on how to lobby with 30 of them. That was lots of fun. It was really interesting. The DSU collectively attended the CCPA Gala, which is Canadian Center for Policy Alternatives. They do a lot of really good research that we use in our own lobbying, so we decided to return the favor for what they do and sponsor them. I hired a commissioner to organize the Canadian University Career Services Conference. So Tamira Mohammed is my commissioner now. She sounds great. There's a case I've been working with from the Rhodes group called Atlantic Business Consultants, which is a company that is run by students and sold from one MBA student to the next year after year. So it gives a chance of experiential learning and actually a chance to run a company. But the group was surprised by the announcement that they'd be losing their office, reorganizing faculty space, just trying to fight to keep their space has been working on. Of course, the election happened. You might have heard of that. Student turnout voter turnout in total across the country was up by 10% over the last election, which is great. We don't have the final numbers yet on what the youth vote, so that's 18 to 25. That'll be available soon, but it needs a bit more number crunching on Election Canada side. So we'll have an update on what that looks like locally soon, but we don't have that yet. Again, thanks everybody that volunteered. Thanks everybody that helped drive Tiger Patrol. Thanks everybody that voted. Great job. We've been doing some tabling in class talks in support of Bill 114, the Safe Campuses Act. So we've been taking our postcards, this consent is mandatory, pass them out in the classes. Students all sign them, but they also raise it up, and we get a really cool photo of the classroom, and we can tweet that at politicians to get us to look like 1-2 times out of it. It's great. With a gender women's studies professor, we're trying to organize 16 days of activism. It's something that the United Nations called for, so that's happening locally that we're organizing. In terms of the tuition fees death sentence campaign, there was some pretty scary updates. The tuition resets at SMU were announced. Resets were announced in the arts, science, and engineering programs there. And in engineering, the tuition increase was actually as high as $1,620 tuition fee increase over 3 years in engineering at SMU. So that's bad.
It's real.
Dal's talked about doing a reset in engineering here as well. So I've set up a meeting with the president of DSU. We're going to talk about that this week, what we might do. So we sort of get organized ahead of that. The provincial legislature opens on the 12th of November. So we're trying to start to organize stuff around that. Mostly because Bill 114 is getting up for a vote. The tuition fee stuff won't be an issue until probably the spring, but we must start organizing around that now. We hosted an event with an author, Nora Loretto, who's done some work with student unions and labor unions, and is also the author of a book called From Demonized to Organized. So we held an event called Beyond the Balaton, saying basically, the election's over, what do we do now? Some students showed up with that, it was great, partnering with the King Student Union. And just a few other big things. The external committee is going to be meeting to talk more about where to take our campaigns now that the election's over. If folks want to come to that, just come talk to me. Student government roundtable is coming up, so that's when all the student union leaders from each student union across the province meet with the government to talk about their agenda. That should be very interesting. Yeah, those are the big things.
Thanks, Joe. Any questions? Yeah, Harry and then Polly.
I know it falls like 4 days before the 16 days of action, but can you just make sure that that formally like includes Transgender Day of Remembrance, since it's in the same area?
Yes, we've already talked about that.
Polly?
Yeah, just quickly, what is the timeline on the tuition resets? Like what university budget will that be in? This year or next year's?
This year's.
Oh,
So
okay.
the resets can be implemented over as long as 3 years. So it doesn't have to happen all in 1 year. It could, like the 1620 increase is over 3 years. And that's still very high and very worth opposing. But like, the universities can do it all at once, or they can spread it out over a little bit, but they have to decide what they're gonna do this year. The way DAL's budgeting process works is they have the budget advisory committee that meets throughout the fall, and they release a first draft report either in late December, early January-ish, and then they do consultations on that. And then they approve it at the Board of Governors meeting in February.
Okay, seeing no other questions, comments. Thanks, John. Oh, sorry. Is there another one?
Just a reminder, we're going to be talking about the Senate reform implications at the next academic committee meeting, so just, I've said this already, today again, please make sure somebody's there from society. And folks from equity constituencies around the table are also invited to come to that, because you will also be examiners. I haven't set one yet, so I'll mail that to council.
Can you keep this?
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, have you been sending out emails about the academic committee and I just haven't been getting them, or?
It meets once a month.
Okay.
So our last one was when the registrar came by to do
Okay, was
consultation.
that?
Yeah, that was the last meeting.
Thanks.
Okay. So we're almost there, guys. Thanks for your patience. Notices of motion. Any notice of motion? Bart had provided me with notice. Is there anyone else that can go while I bring that up? He is intending to bring forward a motion in 2 weeks with respect to financial policy sub 15 to have auditing be done after finances are dispersed. So that's Bart's notice of motion. Are there any other notices of motion? Okay. Announcements. Yeah.
I just wanted to say thanks for the folks who stuck it out tonight. It was by far the longest meeting of the year. But I think we had some really good discussion around the table on some very specific topics. So thanks.
Thanks, John. Any other? Portland?
November starts next week, so that's exciting. I know that the Commerce and Management Societies are doing big initiatives for that. So if you don't have a team that you're joining, feel free to join the Roma's Brothers and Sisters. Other than that, Commerce Society passed a really cool external conference sponsorship policy this week, so we can subsidize delegate fees to give students a chance to go to more conferences, and we just passed that, which is awesome because we're trying to get Dal's name out there more on the business circuit.
Thanks, Marlon. Any other announcements? Okay, motion to adjourn. Moved Harry, seconded Sarah.
It's the most important one.
Yeah, it's
One of us go through here and
That's right.